All Heaven's Civilization Cultivator. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1, Hearing the Truth in the Morning. Mount Tai, the first of the 5 sacred mountains in China, is known as the #1 mountain in the world. It is majestic and magnificent. In the hot summer, the heat is unbearable, but it can't stop tourists from climbing and playing. Among the tourists coming and going, a group of young people came to Mount Tai and began to climb this most famous mountain in China. These young people are students from the Department of Literature of Shanghai University. They took advantage of the May Day holiday to come to Mount Tai for a team building tour to see the charm of China's famous mountains. They walked and stopped along the way, taking pictures of the unique beauty of Mount Tai, and visited the scenic spots, monuments, stone carvings, and ancient temples and Taoist temples left by literati and poets of various dynasties along the way. At dusk, they finally climbed to the top of Mount Tai, Yuhuangding. At this time, the sunset, one of the 4 wonders of Mount Tai, appeared. There were clouds and mists rolling between Mount Tai and the surrounding mountains. The sun set at the end of the sky. A series of golden lights broke through the clouds and mist, like a graceful veil covering the world, which was so beautiful that it made people intoxicated. It's so beautiful. Looking at the wonders that were not like the mortal world, a girl exclaimed, and immediately picked up the camera to record it. Seeing this, the students from the Department of Literature beside her hurriedly asked the girl to help them take some photos. Click, click, click. Suddenly, the girl who was taking pictures noticed a figure that was completely different from the tourists next to her. It was a boy about 20 years old, with a handsome appearance, sword eyebrows and star eyes, a face like a crown jade, and almost perfect facial features. A poem flashed through the girl's mind. The man on the road is like jade, and the gentleman is unparalleled in the world. Although the boy was wearing modern casual clothes, his temperament was calm and elegant, like a gentleman walking out of an ancient painting. Especially under the golden light of the setting sun, he seemed to be a god descending to the earth, handsome beyond measure. Seeing this, the girl, whose heart was pounding, couldn't help but pick up the camera in her hand and wanted to take this scene into the photo. The boy seemed to have noticed something, turned around and glanced at the girl, nodded slightly, and then walked to other areas. The girl's cheeks flushed. She didn't expect that a snapping action was discovered by him. But in fact, the extremely handsome man didn't care at all and walked alone on the top of the Jade Emperor. It has been 20 years since Wen Dao came to this parallel world called Zuxing. This world is an ordinary technological world like the Earth in the previous life. The technological level is in the 21st century, and there is no trace of any extraordinary power. As a time traveler, except that his parents died at birth, Wen Dao's experience in the past 20 years is not bad. In the first 15 years, Wen Dao won the name of a genius with his memory far beyond ordinary people and the knowledge of the previous life. At a young age, he directly entered the junior class of the highest institution of learning in Zuxia. In the next 5 years, as the golden finger in his mind, that had been silent for a long time, awakened a trace of power, Wen Dao quickly earned a lot of money, and now his net worth has reached several small goals. As for why Wen Dao came to Mount Tai, there is naturally a reason. I hope my inference is correct, and I can wake it up completely today. Wen Dao stopped at a certain place on the Jade Emperor Peak, stood there, closed his eyes, as if he was realizing something. The place where China offers sacrifices to the gods. The golden finger in Wen Dao's soul trembled, and he soon fell into a state of emptiness and enlightenment, and all the noise around him disappeared. He carefully felt the cultural heritage left by China on Mount Tai for 5,000 years, as well as the historical traces of countless outstanding people. For a moment, Wen Dao's consciousness seemed to have entered the long river of history. He saw the first emperor and other ancient emperors offering sacrifices to the gods on the Jade Emperor Peak of Mount Tai, saw countless literati and poets writing inscriptions and leaving poems on Mount Tai, praising the magnificence of Mount Tai, and saw the people worshipping Mount Tai as the residence of gods. Strands of invisible and intangible aura of the Chinese civilization flew from all over Mount Tai, sank into Wen Dao's body, and gathered into a green seed in his soul. Chaos spiritual root, world tree seed. This is Wen Dao's golden finger. Unfortunately, since this parallel world is a purely physical universe and a world without magic, there is no extraordinary power. Before Wen Dao was 15 years old, the world tree seed, as an outsider and smuggler, was suppressed by the physical rules of this world, and could not move at all. So he could not feel the existence of a world tree seed in his soul at all. When Wen Dao was 15 years old, the world tree seed was completely integrated with his soul, indistinguishable from each other, and completely turned into the shape of Wen Dao. So far, the world tree seed is like a temporary residence permit of this world through Wen Dao, a relationship household, so that the suppression of the physical rules of this world can be relaxed a little. So the world tree seed showed signs of germination, and also awakened a trace of weak power, allowing Wen Dao to control it. But the identity obtained by the world tree seed can only allow it to do this step. If you want the world tree seed to germinate smoothly and release all its power, you need a better identity certificate. For example, the permanent resident card of this world allows the world tree seed to be completely recognized by the rules of the universe. And this is also the reason why Wen Dao came to Mount Tai. After continuous deduction, Wen Dao tried countless methods, but failed to further release the power of the world tree seed. In the end, Wen Dao suddenly remembered that there are two ways for the world tree to grow. One is to continuously open up the world, let the world grow and upgrade, which is a way of creating the world. The more worlds the world tree opens up, and the higher the level, the more energy it can get in return. The other is to create life, and cultivate civilization in the opened world, which is a way of civilization. Similarly, the more prosperous the cultivated civilization is, the higher the level of civilization, and the more energy the world tree can get in return. However, now the world tree seeds have not even sprouted, so naturally it is impossible to open up the world or cultivate civilization. But Wen Dao took a different approach and thought of another way. Although Wen Dao's world in this world is a world without magic, civilization still exists. If there is civilization, it can naturally be used by Wen Dao. As long as Wen Dao uses the power of the awakening world tree as a seesaw, he can refine the wisdom of the civilization of the ancestral stars Yuksha country for 5,000 years, and condense the seeds of Yuksha civilization. Then use it as a key to open a crack in the suppression blockade of the rules of this world, so that the world tree seeds can take the opportunity to germinate and become world tree seedlings. This is the most likely way for the world tree seeds to germinate completely, as deduced by Wen Dao. As long as the seeds become seedlings, then the road ahead for Wen Dao will naturally be smooth. Whether it is creating a world or cultivating a new civilization, it becomes easy. Chapter 2 World Tree. In the past 5 years, Wen Dao has traveled to all the famous mountains and ancient cities in Yuksha country, reading countless ancient books, Taoist scriptures, and Buddhist scriptures. He can be said to be well read. In Yuksha country, there are few people who know Yuksha history and culture better than him. In the process, Wen Dao was able to collect a huge amount of Yuksha civilization. Now he came to Mount Tai, just to imitate the ancestors' Fengtian sacrifice. After collecting the civilization atmosphere here, he condensed the seeds of civilization in one fell swoop, and broke the blockade of the world rules. Wen Dao stood on the Jade Emperor peak of Mount Tai, and his consciousness merged with the seeds of the world tree in his mind. The invisible and intangible Yuksha civilization atmosphere contained on Mount Tai continued to merge into his body with Wen Dao's breathing. The emergence of these civilization auras allowed Wen Dao to reach the final limit. In the seeds of the world tree, all the civilization auras that Wen Dao absorbed in the past 5 years emerged and rolled. Vaguely, he seemed to see countless figures from it. Yao Chao, Suran, Fuxi, Zuanian, Shening, Xiaohao, Zhuangsu, Emperor Ku, Laozi, Zhuangzi, Confucius, Zunzi. In the 5,000 years of the Xia civilization, countless ancestors and sages have experienced all kinds of things and comprehended countless laws and principles. They turned into voices, echoing in Wen Dao's mind, as if they were explaining it to him across time and space. Wen Dao, who read a lot of books, absorbed the essence, removed the dross, and refined the wisdom of his ancestors. For example, the excellent spirit and will of the Zaya people, such as the unyielding, self-improvement, and tolerance, which have been passed down for thousands of years, were all absorbed by him. In his soul, next to the seed of the world tree, an illusory transparent seed gradually took shape, exuding a breath of vicissitudes of time. Like the thickness of history and the vastness of civilization. After a lot of inner struggle, the girl finally made up her mind and prepared to approach Wen Dao and ask for a contact number. After all, love starts with chatting up. As long as you get the contact number, there will be a chance to get closer in the future. Looking at Wen Dao, who was a few steps away, the girl hesitated again for a while and finally mustered up the courage to open her mouth and said, "Classmate." Boom. A deafening thunder sounded without any warning, which immediately scared the groups of tourists on the Jade Emperor Peak. Countless girls were frightened by the sudden thunder and screamed, and there was a brief chaos on the Jade Emperor Peak. What's going on? Why is there a sudden thunder in this cloudless sky, and it's so loud? Everyone looked at the sky in doubt. But there were only a few white clouds floating in the sky, shining like a treasure under the sunset. There was no trace of lightning at all, and it didn't look like rain and thunder at all. After a while, there was no more thunder, and everyone could only regard the previous scene as a temporary abnormal weather. However, after experiencing the scene just now, and the sunset of Mount Tai also ended, tourists began to go down the mountain one after another. The girl, who was also startled by the thunder, breathed a sigh of relief, patted her exaggerated pectoralis major muscles, and calmed her frightened heart. Oh, that boy. She suddenly remembered that she was going to chat up and ask for contact information, and hurriedly looked at Wen Dao's position. Wen Dao was still standing there, and the previous thunder did not affect him at all. Looking at Wen Dao's figure, the girl blinked her eyes, a little confused. Why does this boy's temperament seem to have changed? If Wen Dao's temperament was elegant like a gentleman before, but still had the air of fireworks in the mortal world, then now Wen Dao seems to have a fairy spirit, and his temperament has become transcendent and unworldly, not like a mortal. As an excellent photographer, the girl's senses have always been very sharp, so she clearly felt the change in Wen Dao's temperament. But at this moment, she did not explore it in depth. This time she picked up the camera and walked towards Wen Dao. "Classmate, hello, I'm a photographer. Can we take a photo together?" At the foot of Mount Tai, watching the figures of several people disappear in the distance, Wen Dao smiled and put away a few brand new photos in his hand. He had been approached by girls, asked for their contact information, and even confessed his love to them so many times over the years that he was not surprised. Normally, he would politely refuse such things and not get involved with anyone. But today he was in a good mood, so he agreed to the girl's request for a photo and went down the mountain with them. Of course, that was all. Back in the presidential suite of a 5-star hotel, Wen Dao sat cross-legged, his mind sank into his soul, and looked inside. Finally, it's done, the seedling of the world tree. In his soul, the original emerald green seed suddenly disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a small sapling about 3 inches tall, with 2 vibrant leaves sprouting from its thin branches. The tree was covered with mysterious and complex lines, exuding a strong Taoist charm. The 2 leaves swayed slightly, and in an instant, the endless space was rippled. Strands of invisible and intangible power were extracted from the unknown, and transformed into its original power. Looking at the seedling of the world tree, Wen Dao was indifferent after 5 years of cultivation. Today, I couldn't help but feel a wave of excitement. The moment when the thunder suddenly sounded on the Jade Emperor Peak of Mount Tai. It was when Wen Dao condensed the seeds of the civilization of the Zaya dynasty and integrated them into the seeds of the world tree, so that the latter's identity was completely recognized by the rules of this world. The world tree has a permanent residence permit, so the suppression of the world rules on it weakened again, and the seeds took the opportunity to germinate and entered the seedling stage. And Wen Dao gained huge benefits in this process. At the moment when the world tree sprouted, he received the feedback and baptism of the origin of the world tree, and the essence of life underwent an unimaginable transformation. Not only did he cleanse his meridians and marrow, and was reborn, but he also removed all the dirt and hidden dangers in his body, transforming a mortal body into a pure spirit. This is why the girl noticed the change in his temperament. His life essence is no longer an ordinary person. With Wen Dao's current physical strength, he can be said to be invulnerable to swords and guns, and ordinary hot weapons can't hurt him at all. Only weapons such as large caliber sniper rifles or rocket launchers can slightly hurt him. Moreover, Wen Dao's soul has also undergone tremendous changes. His 3 souls and 7 spirits have been condensed countless times, and he has achieved the Tao fetus of the primordial spirit. If he were placed in the world of cultivation, Wen Dao would be able to leave his body without dying in broad daylight. But unfortunately, the world he lives in is a physical world without magic. For countless billions of years, no extraordinary mysterious power has appeared, and the physical rules are extremely strict. Therefore, on the ancestral star, in addition to his physical fitness far exceeding that of ordinary people, his other strengths can only be exerted to 1,000th. Since this world is a world without magic, then I will set off the revival of spiritual energy, take the initiative to breed extraordinary soil, and let the extraordinary system descend on the ancestral star. Everything is difficult at the beginning. Wen Dao's eyes were deep and bright, and he walked to the window and looked at the starry sky. Now that the world tree has sprouted successfully and successfully reached the seedling stage, and has passed the beginning, then the subsequent layout will be much easier. Chapter 3, Opening Up the World. Chang'an is the famous ancient capital of 13 dynasties in China. Whether in the past life, or in this life, Wen Dao was born and raised here. Now that he has successfully condensed the seeds of civilization, Wen Dao is ready to return to this homeland. At the same time, here, he began the first step of his layout. The night was hazy and the stars were dim. At 9 o'clock in the evening, in an alley near the antique market in the old city, Wen Dao stood in front of a building with an ancient style. This is Wen Dao's hometown, an antique shop run by his grandfather who raised him. Unfortunately, before Wen Dao was 15 years old and awakened the golden finger, his grandfather died of a serious illness. Over the years, Wen Dao has been running around outside, absorbing the atmosphere of civilization hidden in various places, so this antique shop has been closed and no longer in business. When he opened the door, there was no scene of dust accumulating into soil as imagined, but it was as bright and clean as new, and the interior decoration was renovated compared to a few years ago. Wen Dao could see at a glance that it was because Jiang Mengrao, the executive president of his company, would send people to clean and repair the antique shop every once in a while. Sister Jiang's work really reassures me. Wen Dao chuckled, closed the shop door, and went up to the bedroom on the 2nd floor. It was time for him to take the next step. Sitting cross-legged, Wen Dao gradually raised his own key to the peak, and then his mind sank into the world tree in his soul. The 3-inch tall seedling of the world tree swayed slightly, and the 2 green leaves on it also moved with it. Suddenly, a magnificent force spread out from it, like stars falling and continents tilting. In a trance, Wen Dao seemed to see billions of spaces being born and annihilated on the leaves, and a world was being opened up. Wen Dao's mind was concentrated, and he merged with the world tree, controlling its every move, and obtaining all its information. The seedling of the world tree can absorb 70 to 80 drops of origin every day, but the amount of origin consumed every day is about the same, and it can only barely save 1 or 2 drops of origin every day. As a chaotic spiritual root, the world tree is good at the way of space and the way of the world, so it can barely cross the world fetal membrane of this world and absorb a wisp of invisible and immaterial airflow from the chaotic sea outside the universe. It can also absorb solar energy and various cosmic radiation energies from the starry sky of this world and convert them into the power of origin. But such a little power of origin can only barely support the daily consumption of the seedling of the world tree here. With the current accumulation speed, if you want to accumulate enough origin for growth and let the world tree enter the growth stage from the seedling stage, the time required is simply despairing. But the seedling of the world tree now has about 1 million drops of origin left. Before Wen Dao got the seed of the world tree, it had been floating in the chaotic sea for many years, and accumulated a lot of origin power. But when Taishan sprouted, in order to break the rule blockade of this world and resist the rule suppression, the world tree consumed most of its origin. Only these 1 million origins are left as Wen Dao's last fortune. These 1 million origins may seem like a lot, but in fact, they are not very useful. If all of them are consumed, they can only make the world tree seedling grow 1 or 2 feet, advance 1 or 2 steps in the seedling stage, and increase the amount of origin power absorbed every day by 1 or 2 times. This is of no help to Wen Dao's current predicament. So Wen Dao wants to use these origins to create the first lever to pry the world and create a new era. Otherwise, Wen Dao and the world tree seedling will be suppressed by the physical rules of this world without magic, which is at least a middle 1000 world level, until their tens of thousands of years of life are exhausted, and their strength cannot enter the next great realm. Wen Dao's eyes are deep and bright. 1 million drops of origin are barely enough, so let's get started. Wen Dao's mind moved, and 100,000 origins turned into a huge amount of energy, pouring into a leaf of the world tree seedling, condensing the countless small spaces that are constantly born and destroyed into a whole piece. Open. A roar exploded in the depths of the soul, and the world tree's way of creation suddenly started, and began to open up the world for the first time. Another 100,000 origins poured in, and the space that had just condensed suddenly exploded, blooming with endless brilliance and color. Driven by the origin and the rules of the world tree itself, the space expanded rapidly in all directions, and the internal volume became larger and larger. In a short time, its diameter reached nearly 10,000 kilometers. But from the outside, it was still the same as the leaves of the world tree seedling, but the size of half a baby's palm, and it had not changed at all. It's like putting Sumeru in a mustard seed, hiding the sun and the moon in a pot. Feeling the physical rules of this magic-free world, Wen Dao was relieved that the world tree did not react much to the world tree's behavior of opening up the world inside it. As I expected, the world tree has a permanent residence permit, and is considered one of us. Opening up space is its innate ability, and it is carried out inside the world tree. Everything I have done is within the scope allowed by the material rules of this world. The cost is just that the source consumption is a little greater. But this is not over yet. Looking at the gradually stable space in front of him, Wen Dao waved his hand, and hundreds of thousands of sources turned into a raging river and poured in, violently decomposing and burning in the void, turning into an infinite ocean of material particles and low-level energy tides, flooding the entire space. The veins and lines on the surface of the world tree lit up one by one, and the rules of yin and yang, 5-element, time, and space slowly emanated and merged into that space. The extraordinary rules of yin and yang, 5-element, etc. perform their duties, determine the 4 poles and 8 directions, and perform the world. Infinite material particles condensed, soil, air, water, minerals, hurricanes, lightning, ice and snow appeared one by one, but this space was still chaotic and disordered. This time, the rules of physics finally reacted. Wen Dao felt the pressure around him increase, as if the entire space was rejecting him and trying to wipe out all the extraordinary auras that were inconsistent with the world. Wen Dao's heart trembled, and he quickly gathered the extraordinary rules and auras of the world tree that had accidentally escaped from his body when creating all things, and turned into an ordinary human again. Chapter 4 Tianyuan Star. This method really worked, and the world returned to peace again. Seeing that the physical rules had been deceived again, Wen Dao entered the perspective of creation, and his consciousness overlooked the entire space, just like the heaven of a world, indifferently and rationally controlling all changes in it, and began to complete the last step of creation. Under his control, various world parameters were set to perfection. Soil condensed into rocky crust, mountains and rivers, hot magma flowed under the crust, water sources gathered into lakes, oceans, and countless rivers, or turned into various metal veins buried in the earth. Arrows to form a thick atmosphere, ice, and snow covered the sky in the extreme north and extreme south. Various substances condensed together in the best way to form various ecological environments and systems. I don't know how long it has been, and a rocky planet with a radius of about 3,800 kilometers gradually took shape, floating in the center of this newly opened space. On it, an atmosphere thousands of kilometers thick surrounded it and protected everything on the planet. The ratio of land to ocean on the surface of the planet is 4:6. In the depths of Wen Dao's soul, the tiny world, between the shaking leaves, supported this planet, that is slightly larger than Mars. At this time, Wen Dao's consciousness left the state of creation, and the state of absolute rationality faded. Looking at the tiny planet on the world tree, Wen Dao nodded with satisfaction. Everything went well, and the first dust world was successfully created. According to the origin information inherited from the seedling of the world tree, Wen Dao knew that there are infinite worlds in the heavens and the worlds, which can be roughly divided into dust world, Hengsha world, Kyankan world, small world, middle world and big world. Among them, dust world, Hengsha world and Kyankan world can be collectively referred to as small world, middle world and big world are collectively referred to as big world. Originally, with the current realm of the world tree, the mysterious and profound 10,000 rules contained, even the Hengsha world can be created. But as the saying goes, a good cook cannot cook without rice. In the case of insufficient origin, Wen Dao has no way to do anything but to create a small world of dust level. For the universe, a dust particle is tens of thousands of miles in radius. As the first world I created, I'll call you Tianyuan realm, and the planet will naturally be called Tianyuan Star. Wen Dao now has more than 100,000 origins left in his hands, which will be used for the normal consumption and growth of the world tree, as well as to maintain the early operation of this dust world. At least before life is born, and civilization is established, this dust world cannot bring him too much benefit, and cannot feed back the seedlings of the world tree. Wen Dao looked at the desolate and dead planet and thought, birth of life. In this regard, the ancestral star can help me save a lot of time. Half a month later, one after another, trucks loaded with goods came into a warehouse in the suburbs, carrying specimens of various animals, plants, bacteria, and fungi, or gene fragments and gene sequences. When night fell, the warehouse covering thousands of square meters was filled with specimen boxes of all sizes. After careful inspection and confirmation, a career beauty who looked only in her early 20s stood behind Wen Dao and reported, "Boss, the last batch of animal and plant specimens from Oceania and Antarctica that you requested have all arrived." Jiang Mengrao looked at the handsome and elegant gentleman in front of her and said softly. Wen Dao nodded slightly and said, "Thank you for your hard work, Sister Jiang." Then, Wen Dao sent Jiang Mengrao and the driver away together, and stood alone in the warehouse full of specimen boxes, looking at the animal and plant specimens and gene sequences in front of him, that cost him tens of millions of RMB, and were transported by plane from all over the world in an expedited manner. Wen Dao's eyes flashed, and a ripple appeared in the surrounding space, and an invisible force spread out from his mind. The next moment, all the animal and plant specimens and gene sequences in the specimen boxes here disappeared, and were swallowed and analyzed by the world tree, to improve the gene bank of the ancestral star in its body. In the past half month, Wen Dao has relied on the money in his hand and the special channels of a biological research institute that he invested in his early years. He purchased various animal and plant specimens and paleontological fossils from all over the world, and handed them over to the world tree seedlings for swallowing and analysis. With this last batch of specimens, the gene bank of the world tree now includes almost all the creatures on the ancestral star known to mankind. This means that the world tree can use its origin to create all creatures on the ancestral star, including humans. But this is meaningless, because Wen Dao wants a new creature that can exert extraordinary power and let it open up a cultivation system. Even if the extraordinary power it possesses is negligible, it can only blow a leaf and ignite a flame after it is released. As long as a part of it appears, Wen Dao and the world tree can use it to slightly pry the physical rules of this universe and imprint a trace of seemingly insignificant extraordinary system laws. Therefore, the role of these genes is only as the origin of life in the Tianyuan realm, so that it does not need to spend billions of years to create life from scratch like the ancestral star, making the life in the Tianyuan realm evolve faster. Later, the Tianyuan realm will inevitably give birth to its own unique extraordinary creatures. When Wen Dao returned to the antique shop, the world tree seedling had thoroughly analyzed the genes of all the creatures on the ancestral star. Now everything is ready, and life can be created in the Tianyuan realm. Wen Dao said with a smile. He came to an ancient wooden door on the second floor, pushed it open and entered. On the other side of the door was not a room, but the top of a mountain thousands of feet high. This was Tianyuan Star. The wooden door was blessed by Wen Dao's authority and became a cross-border door, connecting Zhuxing and Tianyuan Star. However, only Wen Dao can pass through this cross-border door. Others who open this door can only see and enter an ordinary room. The top of the mountain is surrounded by clouds and mist, like the sea and tides, and golden ripples appear under the shining sun. Unfortunately, there is no green on this mountain, except rocks and soil, otherwise it would definitely be a fairyland, one of the most beautiful places in the world. Wen Dao, who stepped into the Tianyuan realm for the first time in his physical body, looked up at the sun in the sky. This is a projection condensed by the world tree sapling using the weak yang law it has mastered, drawing the power of the real sun in the solar system, bringing endless light and heat to Tianyuan Star. Higher up in the sky, outside the fetal membrane of the Tianyuan realm, there are endless space storms roaring all year round, with countless tiny space fragments flying, colliding, and annihilating. Chapter 5 Creating Life. The spatial structure of this magic-free universe is divided into two parts. One is the main material universe where the ancestral star is located, with strict and powerful physical rules and extremely stable space and time. The other is the dark universe, or the space dimension sandwich, which is interdependent and mutually mapped. The space sandwich is divided into hundreds of millions of layers, with countless space fragments inside, and the farther away from the main material universe, the larger the volume of the space fragments. The small space fragments are only the size of a palm, and the large ones are the size of several star systems. Moreover, due to the chaotic movement of space fragments, the time flow rate in this space sandwich is more chaotic than that in the main material universe. Some are fast, and some are slow. Wen Dao found a space fragment of about the same size as the Tianyuan realm in the space sandwich corresponding to the position of the ancestral star in the past half month, but the time flow rate is hundreds of times faster than that of the ancestral star. It is estimated that 1 year on this space fragment is 1 day on the ancestral star. And peel off the Tianyuan realm from the leaves of the world tree and let it attach to this space fragment, or to this magic-free universe. The purpose of doing this is to make the main universe recognize the orthodox status of the Tianyuan realm, and recognize that the latter is a part of it, a special celestial body that evolved naturally, in preparation for adding the extraordinary system to the main universe in the future. Of course, as the creator god of the Tianyuan realm, Wen Dao still controls the first authority of the Tianyuan realm. Entering the perspective of creation, Wen Dao's eyes instantly became indifferent, and countless emerald green light spots lit up behind him, forming a virtual shadow of a sapling that seemed to support the world. Each of those light spots represented the gene sequence of our ancestral star creature. Using this as a template, Wen Dao easily created countless types of biological cells with the original energy. Then he scattered them in the vast ocean of the Tianyuan realm like an old farmer sowing in spring, and planted the seeds of life. At the same time, the seedlings of the world tree deep in the sea of consciousness swayed slightly, swaying countless original energies and the laws of creation, life, evolution, and other laws. In an instant, the endless breath of life covered the world, driving those cells to evolve at a very fast speed. Time acceleration, 100,000 times. Wen Dao said lightly. He waved his hand. The power of the god of creation was activated, and the power of the law of time surged. Suddenly, except for the few feet of time and space around Wen Dao, the time in other areas was passing by at a speed 100,000 times faster. In addition to the space fragments where the Tianyuan realm is located, the speed of time itself is hundreds of times faster than that of the Zhuxing. So now 1 day on the Zhuxing is equivalent to 100,000 years in the Tianyuan realm. If it weren't for the material rules of the Wumo universe suppressing it, Wen Dao could even increase the time acceleration of the Tianyuan realm to 1,000,000 times, tens of millions of times, or even faster. After all, who let Wen Dao be the god of creation of the Tianyuan realm, with all his authority? Of course, this is only when there are not too many creatures and intelligent civilizations born in the Tianyuan realm. When intelligent races are born in the future Tianyuan realm, and their civilization level is getting higher and higher, the multiples that time acceleration can increase will be lower and lower. Under the continuous supply of the source energy of the world tree, as well as the promotion and acceleration of the power of the laws of life, evolution, and creation. In addition, the Tianyuan realm has a complete biological gene bank, so it does not need to evolve from nothing to something like the Zhuxing. It only needs Wen Dao to sprinkle the corresponding gene sequence at a specific time. With the blessing of a total of 4 buffs, the Tianyuan realm is undergoing earth-shaking changes every moment, and the speed of life evolution is extremely terrifying, like a rocket taking off. In just one day on the Zhuxing, the Tianyuan realm has completed hundreds of millions of years of evolution of life. Wen Dao left the perspective of creation, looked at the Tianyuan realm, where life began to appear with satisfaction, turned around and went through the portal, to return to the antique shop. Next, I will wait for higher organisms to evolve in Tianyuan Star. Then I will come out to open their wisdom, lead them to develop a new civilization, and help me condense a new seed of civilization. Chang'an, the old city, near the antique market. When the surrounding residents went out early in the morning, they saw that after some renovations, the antique shop was renamed Chaoxi Pavilion, and opened for business again after several years. Many neighbors who had known Wen Dao since childhood congratulated him, and congratulated him on the opening of his new store. Some tourists who come to the antique market to shop, and are interested in antiques will enter the store for a visit. As for why Wen Dao wants to reopen Chaoxi Pavilion, it is because this store is the last effort of his grandfather before his death. His grandfather's last wishes, that he wants him to run the antique shop. It's just that Wen Dao has been running around outside to activate the seeds of the world tree for the past 5 years, and he has no time to run Chaoxi Pavilion, so he has been idle. Now, the world tree has successfully sprouted, and successfully created a dust world. There is nothing on the ancestral star that can attract Wen Dao. So Wen Dao reopened the antique shop to fulfill his grandfather's last wish, and also quietly waited for the development of the Tianyuan world. Anyway, Wen Dao is not short of money, so he doesn't have to work hard for life. Chaoxi Pavilion is not big, about 120 square meters, but the interior is fully equipped with everything. Opposite the door is a yellow rosewood screen with exquisite patterns carved on it. In the shop, there are several sandalwood and bamboo tables and chairs for guests to rest and drink tea, as well as several mahogany antique shelves, on which are placed antique collections of all sizes. There are jade, porcelain, silver, bronze, ancient coins, calligraphy and painting, wood carvings, etc., and even a few rusty looking ancient swords and knives, each of which is marked with the name, year, and price. Most of these are ordinary antique objects passed down from Grandpa Wen Dao, but the remaining antiques were collected by Wen Dao in various ways during his 5 years of traveling around the country. After all, Wen Dao has the seeds of the world tree that can absorb the breath of civilization, and can easily feel some antiques that are buried deep underground, or collected by people, but have a very deep cultural heritage, and contain the breath of civilization. Therefore, the part of the antiques that are qualified to be collected by Wen Dao in Chaoxi Pavilion have been circulated for at least 400 or 500 years, and are worth a lot of money. But now, except for Wen Dao, no one else knows that there are hundreds of precious antiques in such an antique shop in such a small alley. Seeing the antiques on the shelf that cost 5, 6, or even 7 figures, everyone smiled and shook their heads. What good things could there be in such an antique shop in a small alley that dared to be priced so high? The prices of the antiques on other shelves were normal. Wen Dao, who was sitting on the armchair, didn't care. He leisurely brewed a pot of good tea, squinted his eyes, and tasted it carefully, allowing everyone to watch. However, he secretly opened a virtual panel named Creation System to check the development of Tianyuan realm during this period. Master, Wen Dao identity, God of creation, creator, Lord of the world tree, world creation, Tianyuan realm, lower dust world, civilization achievements, seed of civilization, One Piece, number of origins, 18,483 drops. World log. The creation system is a tool specially created by Wen Dao using part of his soul subconsciousness, combined with the creation rules of the world tree and the laws of the heaven of the Tianyuan realm, to help him manage the world he created. With the help of the creation system, Wen Dao can more easily understand the various changes in the Tianyuan realm and better manage the Tianyuan realm. Chapter 6 World Log. For example, the world log that Wen Dao is watching now is a documentary of more than 10 hours, edited by the world creation system, showing some wonderful scenes of the biological evolution process of the Tianyuan realm over the past 700,000 years. It tells him clearly what happened in the Tianyuan realm during the period of time acceleration. World log of the Tianyuan realm. In the first year, the god of creation created the Tianyuan Star, the sky, the earth, and the ocean, and all things in the world. Then the god of creation sprinkled the seeds of life, and the first primitive cell was born, which directly pushed the Tianyuan realm forward a small step, allowing the laws of the world related to life, creation, and soul to grow a little bit. The sun and the moon rotate, and the years pass by. In the 300,000th year of Tianyuan Star, multicellular life began to appear, and stepped onto the world stage. Countless prehistoric creatures appeared one after another, opening up a life explosion similar to the Cambrian period of the ancestral star. In the 520,000th year, primitive algae, mollusks, coelenterate, invertebrates, arthropods, chordates, and fish vertebrates evolved one after another, and became the overlords of the Tianyuan realm. In the 675,000th year, mosses, ferns, and amphibians came onto land, and began a new evolutionary path. Wen Dao saw that during the 7 days he was on the ancestral star, the ocean and land of Tianyuan Star changed from a desolate and dead brown-yellow color to a vibrant emerald green, and the oxygen content in the air continued to increase, forming an ecological environment similar to that of the ancestral star. Blue algae, trilobites, shrimps, nautiluses, coral polyps, primitive jellyfish, arthropods, horseshoe crabs, primitive fish and other life species appeared one by one in the ocean and then became extinct one after another. Later, green began to spread from the ocean to the land, and some creatures that failed to compete in the ocean evolved into arthropods and amphibians, and also set foot on new territories with the expansion of plants and officially entered the land. Up to now, the land of Tianyuan Star is full of towering trees and rampant beasts, interpreting the cruel and bloody natural laws of the law of the jungle, survival of the fittest, and survival of the fittest in the dense primitive jungle. Countless extinct prehistoric beasts on the ancestral star, such as saber-toothed tigers, mammoths, emperor crocodiles and various dinosaurs, can be found in this world. There are even creatures that have never appeared in the ancestral star, such as two-headed snakes, three-headed wolves, four-winged birds, horses with wings, etc. These are creatures that have undergone a long evolution and are unique to Tianyuan Star. Wen Dao looked down at the vast world and was very satisfied. In just 7 days, that is, 700,000 years in the Tianyuan realm, billions of years of biological evolution on the ancestral star have been completed. It is worth it for me to collect the genes of all creatures on the ancestral star and spend a lot of world tree origin to speed up the evolution. During these 7 days, in order to allow the Tianyuan realm to evolve creatures that can master extraordinary powers, an extraordinary environment was created. Wen Dao converted almost all the original energy into a lower level active energy that can be absorbed by creatures. It was named Tianyuan Qi by Wen Dao, which means the most primitive energy that constitutes all things in the world. Tianyuan Qi can speed up the metabolism of organisms and can also help organisms pass on excellent genes, allowing their offspring to evolve in a better direction. However, due to the suppression of the physical rules of the main universe, the heaven and earth energy will be continuously downgraded to less active ordinary energy, matter, or space within a year, and used to continuously expand the size of Tianyuan Star and Tianyuan realm. This is also the result of Wen Dao's efforts to control the world tree and the world laws of Tianyuan realm to resist. Otherwise, if it is placed on the ancestral star, the moment the heaven and earth energy appears, it will be wiped out by the physical rules of the world without magic, and become the background radiation energy of the universe. Therefore, in order to ensure that the concentration of heaven and earth energy is maintained at a certain level, so that the creatures of Tianyuan realm are always in an environment of rapid evolution, Wen Dao needs to transform part of the origin into heaven and earth energy every once in a while. What makes me even more gratified is that the dust world of Tianyuan realm finally no longer needs the seedlings of the world tree to continue to fill the coffin. Seeing the remaining more than 2,000 drops of origin on the system panel, Wen Dao sighed. As early as the 5th day, the more than 100,000 drops of origin left by the world tree after creating the Tianyuan realm were almost exhausted. It's just that the Tianyuan realm, which gave birth to various complex creatures, began to feed back to the world tree from then on. It turns out that for some unknown reason, the true spirits of life can cross the fetal membrane of the world during the process of birth and death, and absorb less than 1/100000th and 1/10,000th of the chaotic energy from the chaos sea to strengthen their souls. Moreover, the more complex the life form and the larger the size of the creatures, the stronger their souls are when they are born, and the more chaotic energy they can absorb every day. However, this extra soul energy will be continuously consumed with their daily activities, dissipated into the heaven and earth, and fed back to the world. At the same time, the stronger the strength of life and the longer it lives, the more energy it can feed back to the world in its lifetime. Moreover, after the death of life, its soul will decompose and dissipate in the heaven and earth, feeding back the last bit of energy to the Tianyuan realm. Perhaps the energy fed back by a life in its lifetime is insignificant, but in these 700,000 years of accelerated time, there are so many lives born and died in the Tianyuan realm, and the energy they feed back is also a considerable amount. Therefore, from the beginning of the Tianyuan realm, which required the world tree to pay for the origin and create all living things, to the current roughly balanced income and expenditure of the origin, it can maintain the concentration of the heaven and earth's vitality by itself. As a world of dust, the Tianyuan realm can absorb 7 or 8 drops of origin from the chaos sea every year. With the energy fed back by the souls of dead creatures after decomposition, it will increase by about 2 or 3 drops, and it can obtain about 10 drops of origin a year. Compared with the speed at which the world tree seedling can absorb dozens of drops of origin a day, it can be said to be as slow as a snail. It's just that the Tianyuan realm needs to convert part of the world's origin into the vitality of heaven and earth, to maintain the concentration of the vitality of heaven and earth, and create a minimum extraordinary environment. Therefore, the Tianyuan realm can accumulate about 1 drop of origin every 10 years. But the advantage is that the Tianyuan realm is located in a space interlayer with a higher time flow rate, and it can accelerate time to a certain extent. Therefore, after more than 100,000 years of accumulation, the number of origins can also be left with tens of thousands of drops. As for the future, with the improvement of the level of the Tianyuan realm, such as upgrading to the Hengsha world, or the birth of intelligent civilization in the world, it will make it further in the world of dust. The speed at which the Tianyuan realm absorbs the chaotic energy will be greatly improved, and the efficiency will gradually become comparable to that of the world tree seedling. At that time, the Tianyuan realm can greatly feed back to the world tree. Looking at the vibrant Tianyuan realm, a thought flashed through Wen Dao's mind. There are still more than 18,000 drops of origin left. It is time for civilization to emerge in the Tianyuan realm, which is just right for humans to evolve. Chapter 7 New Human. In order to successfully establish a supernatural system and promote it smoothly in the ancestral star, Wen Dao decided to create humans as the first intelligent creature. After all, only in this way can we establish a supernatural system that conforms to the biological structure of humans and the ancestral star with a greater probability. Wen Dao watched the world log for more than 10 hours. It was already evening, and the first business of Cheoxi Pavilion in a few years officially ended. Today, Wen Dao sold a few ordinary antiques left by his grandfather. Although the price was not high, it was a good start. Adjusting the time flow rate back to the normal ratio, Wen Dao once again descended to the Tianyuan realm from the second floor portal, ready to lead the birth of human civilization. After 700,000 years of geological movement, the original topography of Tianyuan Star has long been changed beyond recognition. For example, the high mountain that was originally connected to the second floor portal, which was soaring into the clouds and overlooking all the mountains, has now become an ordinary mountain with an altitude of more than 1,000 meters lower. Wen Dao climbed up and looked into the distance, observing the surrounding environment, and found that the place where the mountain was located was a small mountain range that stretched for more than dozens of miles and faced the sea on one side. To the south, west, and north of the mountain range, there is a vast plain which surrounds this mountain range like a protruding boulder. The primitive trees are extremely lush, and various natural products are abundant. Countless wild animals hide and live here. Because the plain has extremely high precipitation all year round, there are many rivers and waters everywhere, winding and twisting, like a huge water net, covering hundreds of miles. Those hundreds of rivers, big or small, will eventually converge into a river that runs through the entire plain and flow into the vast ocean from an estuary on the east side of the mountain range. After checking it out, Wen Dao was very satisfied. The climate here is warm and suitable, and various products are abundant. It is an excellent place for reproduction, and can be used as one of the experimental sites for evolving new humans. Then select some samples for experiments now, to see which environment has more potential, and can evolve into humans first. After Wen Dao said this, the World Creation System immediately selected more than 20,000 monkeys from the Tianyuan world as experimental samples, and they appeared in front of him in an instant. Squeak, 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 chirp, chirp. Suddenly, the environment changed, and the monkeys jumped up and down in panic, trying to escape from this strange area. But Wen Dao only gave them a look, and they immediately calmed down, hugged each other and trembled. Next, Wen Dao numbered the monkeys and divided them into 137 experimental groups, with 100 males and 100 females as one experimental group, and implanted the optimized human gene sequence of the ancestral star into their bodies. Then Wen Dao placed them in different areas of Tianyuan Star, allowing them to survive and reproduce freely, adapt to the environment, and thus evolve into humans. Among them, 10 groups of monkeys were placed in this plain, and the others were placed on an island, or in the vast primitive tropical rainforest, or in the northern grassland with a lower temperature, and so on. Time acceleration. 100,000 times. The sun and the moon above Tianyuan Star began to rotate rapidly, and the years kept passing by. Only the area between Wen Dao's square inches had not changed at all, and it was even synchronized with the time of the ancestral star. Wen Dao, who has now been baptized by the origin of the world tree, has undergone a transformation in his body and soul, becoming a non-human being, and no longer needs to recover his energy through sleep. So it is just right to take advantage of the night, to directly observe the evolution of creatures in the Tianyuan realm. Wen Dao is like a ghost of time, and is separated from normal time and space by an invisible film. Ordinary creatures cannot see him at all. Under the acceleration of time, in the eyes of Wen Dao, who can switch freely between the god's perspective and the normal perspective, the whole world is like a video played at more than 30 million times the speed. Every second, the Tianyuan realm undergoes new changes. These 2,000 monkeys implanted with human genes have successfully settled in this plane. The favorable environment with abundant products and suitable climate has greatly reduced their survival pressure. So they began to reproduce continuously, giving birth to newborn cubs one by one, and the cubs continued to reproduce when they grew up. Soon, they reproduced for more than 10 generations, and their number doubled several times. And under the special guidance of the creation system, the human genes in the monkeys in the major experimental groups were continuously optimized, gradually occupying a dominant position, and some human characteristics began to appear. The human evolution process is going on in the Tianyuan realm, and the world log of the creation system is also being updated synchronously. In the 725,372nd year of the Tianyuan realm, after 20,000 years of evolution, the primitive apes who walked upright finally appeared. They gathered by the river, lived in caves, and were able to use simple tools. The first civilization was born. In the first 2 or 3,000 years, the 10 groups of apes living on this plain lived in the primitive forest according to their original living habits, relying on collecting wild fruits and hunting some small animals to reproduce. However, with the optimization of human genes, the brain intelligence of apes has developed by leaps and bounds, and the nutrition of wild fruits, insects and small animals is no longer enough to meet their daily consumption and development. At the same time, the apes have reproduced hundreds and thousands of generations over the years, and the number of tribes has increased many times. The increase in the number of tribes means that the demand for food will also increase greatly. Even if the climate of this plane is mild and the products are rich, they can't survive in one place all the time. Therefore, the apes who are gradually lacking food walked down from the primitive trees and began to expand their range of activities, trying to work together to hunt large beasts to obtain more meat nutrition. During this process, the monkeys suffered heavy casualties. The unknown and unfamiliar environment and the unknown and ferocious beasts made them wander on the edge of extinction. Fortunately, they survived and successfully walked from the trees to the ground. Over the next 10,000 years, the monkeys evolved further. The dense hair on the surface of the body gradually faded, just to allow the body to dissipate heat better, thereby prolonging the time to chase prey and exhausting them to death. In order to better hunt prey, they used simple intelligence to learn to use natural weapons that can be found everywhere in nature, stones and fallen sticks, in order to avoid natural disasters such as rain and snow, and hunting by wild beasts. They lived in stone caves and made clothes with leaves and animal skins to resist the cold. At the same time, long-term labor and the use of tools also prompted the further expression of human genes in their bodies, and therefore limbs were liberated through evolution, so that they could walk upright. By the 25,000th year of the experiment, these monkeys successfully evolved into ape men. They can already walk upright and use stone tools. Wen Dao glanced at the world log and nodded slightly. It seems that they have evolved well. The genes of the humans on the ancestral planet have saved them from many dangers. In the autumn of the 732,000th year, the eastern plains experienced an extremely ordinary thunderstorm. However, the brave attempt of a primitive ape made this day unusual. The spark of civilization was born. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8: Spark of Civilization. Tianyuan Star, the eastern plain of the continent. Black clouds covered the sky, countless lightning snakes shuttled through the clouds, and raindrops as big as rice grains poured down, turning the world into a rolling rain curtain. Rumble. A thick lightning streaked across the sky, splitting the dense branches and leaves of the primeval forest, hitting the thick dead leaves on the ground, and the high temperature immediately ignited the dead leaves and caused a flame, followed by a raging wildfire in the wind, which quickly spread in the primeval forest. The heavy rain that poured down, after being blocked by layers of dense leaves, became much sparser when it fell to the ground, and was not enough to extinguish the raging wildfire. The sky was thundering and raining, and the wind and fire were howling on the ground. The rolling smoke filled the world, and countless ancient trees that had grown for decades and hundreds of years collapsed in the fire, becoming new fuel for the wildfire. Faced with such a natural disaster, countless wild beasts ran and hid in fear, but to no avail, and were roasted alive in the fire and high temperature. As for the several primitive ape tribes living near the forest, they could only hide in the stone caves, and dared not go out to hunt. The wildfire burned for 4 days and 4 nights before it slowly went out. Large areas of forests were reduced to scorched earth, and countless beast corpses lay in the ruins. At this time, the primitive apes who had been hiding in the stone caves for several days, and were already hungry and cold, dared to come out and pick up some well-cooked beast corpses to take back as food. One of the apes walked carefully on the scorched earth ruins with a little residual heat. Around him, groups of residual flames swayed in the breeze and could go out at any time. This primitive ape stood in front of the corpse of a black bear, and around him was a group of dead branches burning with flames. The flames roasted half of the black bear's body black, but the fragrance was fragrant. However, he had already filled his stomach, ignored the black bear's body, and stared at the flames. He felt the temperature of the flames, and his heart was extremely afraid, but he was extremely eager. In a trance, he seemed to see a human face in the flames. It was the face of a god. The ape man suddenly heard a ethereal voice that seemed to come from the sky in his mind, guiding him to overcome his fear and pick up the burning wood. Finally, under the guidance of the gods, the ape man overcame the fear from the depths of his genes, and endured the high temperature to grab the branches. Since then, the humans of Tianyuan Star have mastered the power of fire. At this moment, a whisper civilization, that is completely different from the ancestral star and unique to the Tianyuan realm was born. Although this whisper civilization is very small, and not worth mentioning at all, but it is a good start, representing the fire of civilization in the Tianyuan realm and a prototype of civilization. In the future, it will breed a unique and brilliant Tianyuan Star civilization. The world creation system collected this whisper civilization at the first time. When waiting for more civilization to be collected in the future, the world creation system will condense it into a seed of civilization until it sprouts and grows into a civilization tree, condensing the brilliant civilization fruit. At that time, Wen Dao will naturally come to harvest this fruit. Of course, this process will be very long. On the other hand, the primitive ape's mastery of fire and the birth of the prototype of Tianyuan Star civilization from scratch have greatly promoted the development of Tianyuan realm. It has made the various laws of heaven and earth in Tianyuan realm more and more perfect and powerful, and closer to the middle level dust world. Time continues to pass. By the 750,000th year, the experimental subjects of the creator god no longer looked like apes at all. They have completely evolved into primitive humans. The scale of the primitive human population is getting larger and larger. In order to obtain more living space and food, their range of activities gradually spread from the experimental field of the creator god to all parts of Tianyuan Star. Tianyuan Star officially entered the tribal era. From the perspective of God, the primitive human populations placed in different regions, except for a few groups that were extinct due to plague, natural disasters, beasts, etc. Most of the others have reproduced well. The huge population accumulated over a long period of time has prompted them to continue to split and expand outward, and the footprints of primitive humans have begun to spread all over the world. Different primitive human groups have formed different habitats according to the living environment of each place. The primitive people in the plains learned to use stones to make simple agricultural tools, began to grow grain, mulberry and hemp, and embarked on primitive agriculture. The primitive people in the mountains learned to tame wild beasts, raise livestock, and started animal husbandry. The primitive people near the sea, lakes, and water learned to weave fishing nets to catch fish. During this period, primitive humans completely mastered the method of drilling wood to make fire, learned to raise and use fire, and learned to use trees and stones to actively build houses and villages. Because of the emergence of these behaviors and inventions that have greatly helped the development of civilization, countless wisps of civilization are born on Tianyuan Star every once in a while, and they continue to flow into the world creation system. The seeds of civilization in Tianyuan realm are condensing at a steady rate. While the primitive humans on Tianyuan Star are constantly evolving, other creatures have not stopped evolving. Tianyuan Star contains active energy such as the vitality of heaven and earth, which can make biological evolution faster and the gene sequence extremely active. Two brothers born from a biological reproduction may have great differences in their inherited genes after dozens of generations of reproduction, and evolve into different species. However, since Wen Dao does not invest much in the source every year, and is suppressed by the physical rules of the main universe, the concentration of heaven and earth energy on Tianyuan Star has never been high. The content in the air is much thinner than that of rare gases, about 1/10,000th. Ordinary creatures cannot feel it at all, and cannot actively absorb the heaven and earth energy. Most of the time, they passively accept the baptism of heaven and earth energy, and cannot actively store it in their bodies. But everything is possible. In the process of evolution, there will still be some plants that grow in areas where the heaven and earth energy is relatively rich, and they will be infected by the heaven and earth energy for many years. In addition, in order to allow the extraordinary system power to appear in the Tianyuan realm, the god of creation Wen Dao has been guiding it in secret. As a result, these plants can intercept some heaven and earth energy in the process of inhaling and exhaling air, and evolve into high energy plants, such as Zugo and Ganoderma lucidum. And then some lucky animals swallow these high energy plants and successfully absorb the heaven and earth energy contained in them. The heaven and earth energy condensed to a certain concentration will actively promote the further improvement of their gene sequences, so that their strength, speed, nerve reaction speed, etc. can be enhanced. Even their intelligence has improved, still not as good as humans. Their life level has changed, and some organs in their bodies have evolved into extraordinary organs, becoming the first batch of extraordinary creatures on Tianyuan Star. However, no matter how much they have changed, the strongest of these extraordinary creatures is only several times stronger than large giant beasts such as saber-toothed tigers and Tyrannosaurus rex. After all, a real dragon cannot be raised in shallow water. Chapter 9, Middle Dust World. The Tianyuan realm is just a world of dust, and the concentration of active energy such as the vitality of heaven and earth is too low, which is barely better than the world without demons, where the ancestral star is located. Therefore, no strong extraordinary creatures can be born. They have only slightly stronger physical strength, and cannot perform sorcery or magic such as fireballs, ice arrows, and wind blades like the demons and monsters in novels and books. If the Tianyuan realm wants to give birth to stronger and more extraordinary creatures, and develop a complete extraordinary system, it is necessary to increase the concentration of the vitality of heaven and earth. In other words, Wen Dao needs to invest more source energy. It's just that the Tianyuan realm has just started, and it has not fed back too much of the source to Wen Dao. Now the number of sources in his hands is only more than 10,000 drops. Even if all the sources are invested, it can only make the concentration of the vitality of the Tianyuan realm rise sharply for thousands of years. But under the 100,000-fold time acceleration, thousands of years are just a passing cloud, fleeting. We still need to wait until the level of human civilization in this world is further improved, language and writing are born, and the world enters the Bronze Age from the Stone Age. At that time, the Tianyuan realm will surely become a mid-level dust world, and the speed of absorbing the origin will increase, and it may even be rewarded with a large amount of origin from the main universe and the Chaos Sea. By then, we can reduce the time acceleration to 1,000 or 100 times, invest a large amount of origin, and create a stable and more rich extraordinary environment. Wen Dao stood in the sky, overlooking the land of Tianyuan and all living beings, watching them working hard for the survival and reproduction of their tribes. The fire of human civilization has been born, and all we need to do next is wait quietly for it to burn. Wen Dao took a step forward, and the next moment he returned to Chaoxi Pavilion. It was already dawn on the Zuxing side, and he was about to start a new day of business. The Southern Plain is one of the birthplaces of human civilization on Tianyuan Star. On this vast plain with a radius of thousands of miles, there are hundreds of primitive human tribes of all sizes. The larger tribes have thousands of people, while the smaller ones have only dozens of people. The primitive social structure within the tribe has already been formed. With the emergence of agriculture, animal husbandry, and fisheries, the settlements of human tribes have gradually settled down, forming their own specific spheres of influence. Of course, hunting wild animals still exists. After all, with the low productivity level of primitive society, the food obtained from agriculture, animal husbandry, and fisheries is not enough to solve the daily consumption of the tribe. Therefore, going out hunting is very necessary. In a medium-sized tribe with hundreds of people, the terrain is surrounded by mountains and rivers. A large river flows out of the mountains and passes through this tribe. The surrounding flat and white areas are planned into fields. On one side of the river, simple yellow mud houses and thatched houses are scattered in the jungles between the mountains. There are stone fences on the periphery as a warning, to prevent wild animals from breaking into the tribe and hurting people. Except for infants and children under 7 or 8 years old, everyone in the tribe has their own duties, either casting nets to catch fish, or cultivating the land, or going out hunting, a primitive and wild style. As the sky gradually darkened, the tribesmen who went out hunting returned to the tribe with their prey. Tall and strong primitive men dragged prey from the primitive forest, including elk, roe deer, hares, and even a jungle overlord, wild boar. Seeing the hunting team coming back with so many prey, all the people in the tribe couldn't help but cheer oh oh oh, rrr, wow wow wow, and a few strange pronunciations appeared from time to time. A blazing bonfire was lit in the center of the tribe, and the hunters respectfully placed the prey in front of an old primitive man wearing animal skins. The old man picked up a sharp stone and carved a series of simple and abstract pictures of wild animals on a wooden board, and took out a rope made of wild grass to tie a knot to record the types and numbers of hunted prey. Obviously, after tens of thousands of years of evolution, the primitive humans of the Tianyuan world have reached a mature level of intelligence. In order to better express their ideas in daily communication with the tribesmen, as well as to record the production and consumption of the tribe, they have begun to explore the initial language and writing. However, it seems that their writing and language system are still very immature. But according to the current evolution speed, it can be predicted that a systematic language and civilization will soon appear in the Tianyuan realm, a civilization system that belongs exclusively to the Tianyuan realm. This world has never lacked geniuses. Time is still passing at a speed of 100,000 times. In the 781,000th year of the Tianyuan realm, the Tianyuan human race Z collected and sorted out the communication methods of many tribes, observed the changes of all things in the world, the movement of the sun, moon, and stars, and the footprints and images of birds, beasts, insects and fish. After more than 10 years, he created the first hundreds of hieroglyphs. As the hieroglyphs created by Z spread, more and more tribes began to use this writing, and the primitive languages of many tribes within a radius of 100 miles around gradually became consistent. In the 781,000th year of the Tianyuan realm, the Zuxing was exactly at 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening, and Cheoxi Pavilion closed its doors and ended its business. After checking the world log, Wen Dao saw that someone had invented the first hieroglyphics. He immediately became interested and entered the Tianyuan realm. After seeing that Zibo had created the characters, Wen Dao did not hide them, but promoted and taught them to other tribes. The spread of characters further liberated the wisdom of the people in the Tianyuan realm, greatly promoted the development of civilization, and countless civilizations were born. The world creation system in Wen Dao's body began to frantically absorb the increasing civilization between heaven and earth. Puff. Finally, when the hieroglyphics created by Zibo were promoted throughout the Tianyuan Star, the accumulation of civilization reached a certain limit, and suddenly an illusory civilization seed appeared. Although it is very illusory now, as if it will turn into nothingness in the next moment, it cannot be compared with the seeds of the Xuxia civilization, that are extremely solid and just a little bit away from sprouting. But it is a civilization seed after all, a civilization seed that belongs exclusively to the Tianyuan realm, representing that the level of wisdom and civilization in the Tianyuan realm has entered a new stage. The improvement of the civilization level also feeds back to the Tianyuan realm itself, promoting the development of the world, allowing it to be promoted directly from the lower dust world to the middle dust world. Boom boom boom. At the level of heaven, that mortals cannot perceive, the Tianyuan realm has undergone tremendous changes, and countless laws of heaven and earth have transformed and become more powerful. This has caused the speed at which the Tianyuan realm absorbs the chaotic energy to increase suddenly, and it can already absorb 10 drops of the world's origin in a year. The most important thing is that this world's promotion has also been rewarded by the main universe and the Sea of Chaos. A huge group of origin energy from an unknown place passed through the world's fetal membrane and poured into the Tianyuan realm. The number is no less than 100,000. Chapter 10, Merits of Heaven and Earth. Master, Wen Dao. Identity, God of Creation, Creator, Lord of the World Tree. World Tree, Seedling Stage. World created, Tianyuan realm, middle level dust world. Achievements of civilization, civilization seeds. 2. Xuxia civilization seeds, Tianyuan Star civilization seeds. Number of origins. 125,742 drops. World log. Seeing the skyrocketing number of origins on the creation system panel, Wen Dao felt very comfortable and excited. This is the way to create a world, the way to civilization. The growth of intelligent civilization in the world can feed back and promote the development of the world. The more prosperous the civilization, the faster the world will develop. And every growth and upgrade of the world will be rewarded by the main universe and the Chaos Sea, and a considerable amount of origin will be obtained. In this way, I only need to keep creating worlds and cultivate unique and different intelligent civilizations in the world, and I can obtain enough origins to support the growth of the world tree. What's more, the more worlds I create, and the more civilizations I cultivate, the greater my chances of leveraging the rules of the main universe, thereby joining the extraordinary system, and starting the revival of spiritual energy. Wen Dao's eyes were extremely bright. You know, this is just a promotion from the lower dust world to the middle dust world, and he has obtained nearly 100,000 origins. If he is upgraded from the dust world to the Hengsha world, will he directly obtain millions of origins? What about upgrading to the Kyankan world? The more Wen Dao thought about it, the more excited he became. He wished that the Tianyuan world would be directly upgraded to the Kyankan world and obtain a large amount of origin to support the growth of the world tree seedling. But Wen Dao also knew that the further the world grows, the harder it is. Every growth and upgrade requires a long time to accumulate foundation. Things like creating language and writing, if placed in the Hengsha world, can only slightly promote the development of the world, and it cannot make it upgrade to a small level at all. Wen Dao looked at the Z who created the Tianyuan Star pictographic characters, and his eyes were extremely satisfied. The way of heaven is fair, and those who have made contributions will be rewarded. You have made great contributions to the development of the Tianyuan world, and you will naturally be rewarded by the God of creation. I will grant you a life without illness and disaster, and extend your life to 100 years, and your descendants will be protected by heaven and earth for 100 generations. For a civilized hero like Z, Wen Dao was not stingy at all, and threw a ball of merit from heaven and earth, and merged it into Z's body. Below, in a large tribe, Z, who was teaching people the characters, suddenly felt warm all over, and all the injuries he had suffered from crossing mountains and ridges in the past were recovered. The grey hair became dark, the wrinkles on his face became smooth, and his body seemed to be decades younger, healthier than some young men. What's going on? Z was shocked, not knowing what happened to his body. And the people who were learning the characters saw Z's hair turn from white to black and his face become younger, and they were even more shocked. They immediately knelt on the ground and called it a miracle and worshipped him as a god. Later generations spread the myth that the ancestor of characters, Z, was favored by the gods, turned young overnight, and ascended to the upper realm to become a god after death. It is a pity that the Tianyuan realm is just a dust world and cannot establish the function of reincarnation. Otherwise Wen Dao would have made Z live a prosperous life in every future life. In addition to rewarding Z with the merits of heaven and earth, Wen Dao also incorporated part of the merits into the stone tablet in Z's hand, which accompanied him to countless tribes and was engraved with hundreds of the first hieroglyphs. This stone tablet with characters witnessed the changes and development of the characters in the Tianyuan realm, recorded the original characters of Tianyuan Star, and is a well-deserved treasure of civilization. With the transformation and protection of the merits of heaven and earth, its material has undergone earth-shaking changes and has become harder than any metal on Tianyuan Star, enough to be passed down forever. And under the transformation of the rules of heaven and earth, it has an additional function in the future on Tianyuan Star, as long as the characters that have developed and changed from hieroglyphs will be automatically imprinted on this stone tablet with characters. As one of the important objects in the development of Tianyuan realm civilization, it is worthy of such treatment. Wen Dao smiled faintly. If humans forget this treasure of civilization in the future, I can also take it to Cheoxi Pavilion and sell it as an antique. Well, that's a good idea. A faint laughter spread between heaven and earth, and Wen Dao's figure became blurred and disappeared. The story of Z's rejuvenation spread in Tianyuan Star. Humans from various tribes regarded him as the spokesperson of gods in the world. The characters he spread were also gifts from gods to humans. They called Z a great wise man. As a result, some tribes that originally rejected hieroglyphics began to learn them actively, and the promotion of hieroglyphics reached an unprecedented height. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 years passed. Protected by merits, Z traveled all over Tianyuan Star, saw countless landscapes, and finally returned to the tribe where he grew up. This tribe was called the Wen tribe. At the same time, Z taught the world hundreds of new hieroglyphs that he created on the way according to various things, creatures, phenomena, etc., so that humans can express the world and everything in it more richly. 100 years later, Z, who had no illness or disaster in his life, died in the Wen tribe and was buried in Yuanshan. The world revered him as the ancestor of characters, and the stone tablet with characters, as a sacred object, was passed down from generation to generation in the Wen tribe and worshipped by the tribesmen. Morning and evening pavilion. Wen Dao sat cross-legged on the bed, looking at the seedling of the world tree in his soul. The birth of the seed of the Tianyuan world civilization has relaxed the suppression of the world tree by the main universe rules. The seedling of the world tree swayed slightly, and 2 green leaves were full of light. Countless laws and ways flowed on it, and the endless void around it continued to be born and destroyed. Wen Dao's consciousness moved, and a seemingly tiny root of the world tree suddenly penetrated the vast space, and appeared in the depths of the earth's crust of the ancestral star in an instant. The extremely hot liquid metal flow could not affect the world tree at all. As the roots trembled, countless energies from the earth's core were absorbed and transformed into the original energy of the world tree. A few minutes later, Wen Dao opened his eyes, and a brilliant light flashed from them, which was so soul-stirring. Wen Dao was overjoyed. Yes, the suppression of the main universe has decreased, allowing the world tree to come out of my body. But the roots can't go too far, so they can only absorb the energy of the ancestral star. With the help of the spatial ability of the world tree, Wen Dao's consciousness can travel anywhere in the ancestral star. It's a pity that the energy of the ancestral star cannot be absorbed at will. In order not to affect the ecological environment of the ancestral star, I can only absorb 5 or 6 drops of origin a day at most. After all, the ancestral star is Wen Dao's mother star, and Wen Dao can't absorb its energy without restraint. Once the energy in the Earth's core of the ancestral star is insufficient, it will affect the movement of the Earth's crust, and thus affect the ecological environment on the surface. Chapter 11. The Extraordinary Era. Wen Dao walked to the window, looking at the sky, his eyes deep. If the suppression force is further reduced, I can let the roots of the world tree extend to other planets in the solar system, and even directly to the sun. The origin I can absorb at that time will increase exponentially. The energy possessed by the sun is not comparable to that of a small ancestral star. If Wen Dao can devour a star and obtain all its energy, the seedling of the world tree can directly enter a great realm, from the seedling stage to the growth stage. At that time, it will be qualified to create a small world of Kyankan. Looking at the 2 civilization seeds on the world creation system, Wen Dao pondered. It seems that the civilization of Tianyuan realm needs to grow further. The level of Xuxia civilization is obviously several levels higher than that of Tianyuan Star civilization. But the ancestral star is not Tianyuan Star, and it was not created by Wen Dao, so he cannot collect the civilization aura of the entire Xuxia civilization in one thought. Wen Dao, who is suppressed by the rules of the main universe, still has to absorb the civilization aura of Xuxia bit by bit, just like the previous 5 years of dormancy, so that it can be absorbed and improved slowly over time. Therefore, the seeds of the civilization of the Xia dynasty cannot be greatly improved for the time being. If Wen Dao wants to become stronger now, he can only rely on the civilization seed of the Tianyuan realm. Glancing at the number of origins on the panel, Wen Dao thought for a moment. There are already more than 100,000 origins, which is enough to raise the concentration of the heaven and earth energy in the Tianyuan realm to a higher level. Besides, the humans in the Tianyuan realm have developed language and writing, and it is time to guide them to develop a supernatural system. Otherwise, with the current time acceleration of 100,000 times, they may develop into a technological civilization like the Xuxing in one day. In the final analysis, what Wen Dao wants is a world that develops supernatural civilization, not a technological civilization world similar to the Xuxing. Now that the origins have increased a lot, it is time to put this matter on the agenda. Just a few minutes after Wen Dao controlled the world tree to absorb the energy of the Xuxing, another 200 or 300 years have passed in the Tianyuan realm. The pictographic characters passed down by the ancestor of characters, Z, have undergone a lot of evolution in different tribes, and their appearance has changed a lot compared to when they were just created hundreds of years ago. With the guidance of text, the wisdom of the human beings on Tianyuan Star was greatly improved. They learned to summarize the experience needed for survival and development, and invented many living tools. For example, the invention of the most primitive soil turning tool, the hoe, greatly increased human productivity and made farming more efficient. Some relatively docile wild beasts were tamed as livestock and poultry, just like making pottery, improving the quality of life of primitive humans, such as learning to raise silkworms and grow mulberry trees and weaving coarse cloth clothes instead of animal skins. Some human tribes that obtained exposed natural laws such as copper and iron, extracted them in flames, and inadvertently mastered the method of smelting metals, allowing the level of civilization in Tianyuan realm to gradually transition from the Stone Age to the Bronze Age. Moreover, over the past 200 years, the social structure of human beings has also undergone considerable changes, and many new professions have emerged in the tribes, such as priests, wizards, historians, etc. The social status and professional division of labor among humans gradually became clear. Seeing the description in the world log, Wen Dao no longer hesitated and immediately adjusted the time acceleration to 100 times and also invested 100,000 drops of origin into the Tianyuan realm. Suddenly, the concentration of the heaven and earth energy on Tianyuan Star rose rapidly, reaching about 1% of the air, and this concentration was enough to last for 4 or 5,000 years. Converted to the ancestral star, it was about 1.5 months. The humans in the Tianyuan realm felt that the whole world had changed. The air became extremely fresh. Every breath seemed to have a force flowing into their limbs and bones. They had a lot more strength out of thin air, and their bodies became more convenient. In the past, they could only cultivate 1 acre of land a day, but now they can cultivate 2 or 3 acres. The production efficiency has increased by an unknown amount. In the wild, countless plants sprouted and grew, and their bodies increased sharply. Various flowers that should not bloom in this season bloomed quietly. On Tianyuan Star, there are more and more areas with rich heaven and earth energy, and the number of high energy plants has increased hundreds and thousands of times. By the way, countless extraordinary creatures were born. As for those extraordinary species that had already become extraordinary creatures and already had extraordinary organs, because of the increase in the concentration of heaven and earth energy, they began to be able to slightly sense the existence of heaven and earth energy. With every breath they take, they can use their extraordinary organs to intercept a small portion of the heaven and earth energy, and then integrate the heaven and earth energy into their flesh and blood, constantly tempering and strengthening. These extraordinary creatures instinctively found a way to become stronger. And with the increase of extraordinary creatures, the dominance of humans on Tianyuan Star has been greatly challenged. After all, the land area of Tianyuan Star is so large, it does not increase or decrease, and there are only a few landforms suitable for life. Before, when the heaven and earth energy was thin and the number of extraordinary creatures was small, humans could completely avoid their activity areas, establish tribes in other areas, carry out social activities such as farming and hunting, and reproduce. But now that there are more extraordinary creatures, their range of activities has increased, and the danger level of humans in the wild has increased sharply. The various human tribes that have entered the agricultural society and settled in one place for many years have begun to face the danger of extraordinary creatures. Faced with these powerful extraordinary species, ordinary small or medium-sized human tribes have no ability to resist at all. You must know that extraordinary creatures whose physical fitness has been improved by 1 or 2 times in all aspects, and whose strength is comparable to that of ordinary Tyrannosaurus Rex are enough to easily kill hundreds or thousands of primitive humans. After all, Tianyuan Star is now just a primitive society, and even the weapons are only stone weapons and a small amount of bronze. Any human who encounters a supernatural creature will have no choice but to die, and cannot resist at all. If beasts such as mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, and dinosaurs evolve into supernatural creatures, their strength will increase even more terrifyingly. Once traces of supernatural species appear around the human tribe, if they are not moved away in time, humans will often pay a huge price, and the tribe members will suffer heavy casualties. Even the entire tribe may be destroyed by the supernatural species. In order to distinguish them from ordinary wild beasts, these powerful and terrifying supernatural creatures are called ferocious beasts by humans. However, as time goes by, some lucky humans have also discovered the existence of high energy plants in the wild. As long as they swallow the fruits of high energy plants, the humans have a certain chance of obtaining the power bestowed by the gods, which can increase their physical strength several times, enough to fight against those powerful ferocious beasts. Such humans are called warriors by the world. So, life on Tianyuan Star entered a new era, which was named Supernatural Era by Wen Dao. Chapter 12, Fierce Tribe. Tianyuan Realm World Log. In the first year of the extraordinary era, the Creator God bestowed his grace, and the concentration of heaven and earth vitality increased significantly. Various types of extraordinary creatures increased sharply, and ravaged Tianyuan Star, causing the destruction of countless small tribes of humans and a sharp drop in the human population. In order to resist the extraordinary creatures' ferocious beasts, human tribes began to gather together, build walls around the tribes, and city-state societies emerged. In the second year of the extraordinary era, the large tribe gathered hundreds of warriors holding bronze weapons. After sacrificing nearly 30% of their lives, they took 4 spiritual fruits from the claws of the fierce beast Moon Wolf. A few days later, the first human warrior was born, and in a subsequent invasion of the fierce beast into the light tribe, he blocked and drove it away alone, and only a few people were killed or injured in the tribe. Afterwards, humans discovered that the blood and flesh of fierce beasts, like spiritual medicines, contained huge energy, which could help people become warriors, strengthen their physical bodies, and undergo life transformation. In the next 20 or 30 years, the number of human warriors continued to increase, and they gradually gained the upper hand in the battle with the beasts, recaptured the territory that humans had set foot on in the past, and drove the beasts back to the deep mountains and old forests. However, the way human warriors were born mainly relied on wild spiritual fruits and the flesh and blood of beasts. No one has created a method of cultivation that can truly absorb the vitality of heaven and earth and allow people to enter the extraordinary realm on their own. After the concentration of the vitality of heaven and earth increased, the world creation system silently recorded the various major events and changes that occurred on Tianyuan Star and showed it to Wen Dao in the form of a world log. At first, Wen Dao watched quietly from a god's perspective, without any intention of intervening. However, when he saw the last message in the world log, Wen Dao frowned. For decades, no wise man has summarized the laws of the changes in the warriors' bodies, perceived the existence of the vitality of heaven and earth, and created a method of cultivation. The human wisdom of Tianyuan Star is not so bad, right? The humans of Tianyuan Star were born from the ancestral star, and there is the vitality of heaven and earth in the world, which is an active energy that helps the evolution and development of organisms. Now, their intelligence is not inferior to that of the humans on the ancestral star. Why did this happen? Wen Dao swept his consciousness and immediately understood the reason. It turned out that, in order to save the tribe and the people in the crisis of the beasts, most of the spiritual fruits and the flesh and blood of the beasts obtained by humans were absorbed by those strong human warriors. Because their physique can better absorb the spiritual energy contained in them, the success rate of becoming a warrior is greater, and it is the main force for humans to fight against the beasts nowadays. However, this kind of people are often not good at thinking, and are used to solving everything with force. On the contrary, those witches with wisdom are issuing orders behind the scenes, and they are weak, and rarely become warriors. In addition, the main reason is that due to the limitations of the primitive society, ignorant people attribute the birth of warriors to the power given to them by God. They believe that the appearance of the beasts is a test given to humans by the gods, and the spiritual medicine is a gift from the gods. If you want to become a warrior, you can only pass the test of the gods, obtain the flesh and blood of the beasts, or obtain the spiritual medicine given by the gods. Becoming a warrior through other means is a blasphemy against the gods and an act of stealing the power of the gods, which will be punished by the gods. Even if some humans are aware of the existence of the vitality of heaven and earth, and are willing to explore the rules of absorbing the vitality, they cannot see the rules of the operation of the vitality in the body through the warrior's body, and cannot summarize the specific method of cultivation. Without a specific method of cultivation, if you rashly absorb the vitality of heaven and earth, there is a great possibility that the physical strength will run away and damage the internal organs. At the least, the body will be severely injured, and life will be hanging by a thread, and at the worst, you will die on the spot. This has deepened the impression of primitive humans that the power of warriors comes from the gods, and mortals cannot actively steal it, otherwise they will be punished by heaven. Therefore, in the past few decades, although there have been extraordinary powers on Tianyuan Star, no system has been formed, and no even very simple method of cultivation has appeared. That's right. The current Tianyuan realm is just a primitive society. People are ignorant and chaotic. They believe in all kinds of natural phenomena and attribute everything in the world to the creation of gods. Wen Dao laughed at himself, although the Tianyuan realm was indeed created by me. If humans want to create a method of cultivation, they must first understand the structure of the human body, and know the laws of the operation of the heaven and earth's vitality in the human body. Only in this way can they correctly guide and absorb the heaven and earth's vitality and strengthen their own bodies. But the medical skills of Tianyuan Star are just starting out and are very primitive. There is very little knowledge about the research on the structure of the human body. The medical knowledge or experience that Tianyuan Star now has is the result of people's attempts and summaries at the cost of their lives over thousands or tens of thousands of years, and is in the hands of witches in various tribes. There is no figure like Shenong who tasted hundreds of herbs and used herbs to treat diseases in Tianyuan Star, to summarize the medical experience of various tribes and compile a set of systematic primitive medicine. It seems that I have to guide them. Wen Dao, who was watching the store, separated a divine thought and escaped into the Tianyuan realm like light smoke. In the eastern part of the Tianyuan Star continent, Light Tribe. The Light Tribe is the largest human tribe within 1,000 miles, with a population of over 10,000. It occupies the most fertile area in the east, and the Yuan River, the largest river on Tianyuan Star, runs along its border. The Light Tribe uses a blazing flame as its tribal totem. They are the first tribe on Tianyuan Star to master the cultivation and use of fire and spread the method of using fire. The Light Tribe has experienced 30,000 years of wind and rain and has nearly been exterminated countless times, but they finally survived and continued the flame totem to this day. This is naturally due to the protection of heaven and earth. In the past 100 years, the Light Tribe has mastered the method of smelting bronze with the help of the mineral veins not far from the tribe, and has refined a large number of bronze artifacts, and formed a bronze army of thousands of people. This bronze army easily hunted down the strongest beast on the continent, the Balong Behemoth, with a record of 0 casualties. The strength is extremely powerful. The Light Tribe is the well-deserved first tribe in the eastern region. With such strength, the Light Tribe is naturally ambitious and wants to conquer all the surrounding tribes, and even conquer the entire Tianyuan continent, and become the common master of the world. All tribes were made to submit to the Light Tribe, and pay tribute to it for generations. But before the Light Tribe began to conquer the 4 directions, the extraordinary era suddenly arrived, and countless ferocious beasts appeared in the wild. Although the Light Tribe suffered huge losses at the beginning, many tribesmen were killed and injured. But after the city wall was built, the Light Tribe began to fight back. As written in the world log, with the bronze army of nearly 1,000 people, the Light Tribe successfully killed a ferocious beast, the Moon Wolf, obtained the 4 spiritual fruits it guarded, and successfully cultivated the first warrior. And now in the 36th year of the extraordinary era, the Light Tribe is still the most powerful tribe in the eastern part of the continent. Not only does it have a bronze army, but the number of warriors is also the largest among all the tribes, with more than 40. Chapter 13, Dreaming, Seeking Follow-up Reading. On this day, Wen Dao's divine thought came to the sky above the Light Tribe. Today happened to be the day when the Light Tribe worshipped the gods once a year. The tribesmen of the Light Tribe began to prepare for the sacrifice early in the morning. Thousands of people gathered in the center of the tribe, waiting for the sacrifice to begin. There is a sacrificial square covering an area of thousands of square meters, and an altar more than 10 meters high, built of rocks, in the shape of an ancient pyramid. On the steps of the altar, there are stone pillars with flame-shaped totems and textures carved on the surface. On the highest level of the altar, there is a huge stone pit, and firewood is added to it all year round, so that the blazing flames, that never go out, are ignited. That is the first flame of Tianyuan Star, representing human civilization, and it is also the totem and belief of the Light Tribe for tens of thousands of years. Around the square, There are warriors holding bronze weapons to maintain order and ensure the smooth progress of the sacrifice. As for the more important rock altar, it is guarded by several warriors and classy warriors. The strong protection can be said that, even if a fierce beast invades, it can resist for a period of time. Wen Dao looked down at the entire light tribe with his divine thoughts, and saw the sacrificial ceremony officially begin. Woo, 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 boom, boom, boom. Below the temple, huge horns blew, and animal skin stone drums were beaten, announcing the start of the annual sacrificial ceremony of the Light Tribe. Under the awed gaze of the residents of the Light Tribe, a high priest of the Light Tribe, with his face painted with various plant pigments, wearing animal skins and various bone ornaments, slowly walked up to the top of the rock altar. The sacrificial ceremony begins. A young priest below shouted in Tianyuan language, and the high priest of the Light Tribe turned on the mechanism. Suddenly, the flames of the giant bonfire on the top of the altar were led down the altar along the flammable materials on the special passage, and ignited the piles of bonfires around the altar. The raging fire swept around with high temperature, reflecting the red faces of everyone. The most powerful warrior of the Light Tribe, the Patriarch Lyrong, dragged a seriously injured beast out of the prison, and beheaded it in front of the totem. In addition, under the altar, there were dozens of large beasts such as tigers and bears as sacrifices. The warriors of the Light Tribe cut off their heads, and the hot blood was poured into a 3-legged bronze tripod, to sacrifice to the gods. More than a dozen primitive people wearing bronze ghost masks danced wild and primitive sacrificial dances beside the bonfire under the altar, playing rough sounds with instruments made of bones. The elderly high priest presided over the sacrificial process according to conventions and regulations, praising the great god of fire, bringing fire and warmth to the tribe, and praying that he would continue to protect the Light Tribe in the new year, good weather and good harvests, and not be disturbed by ferocious beasts. Wen Dao watched the sacrificial process of this primitive society with great interest. For a history lover and cultural relic collector like him, it is a great satisfaction to be able to see the sacrificial ceremony of the primitive period with his own eyes. The flames illuminated the sky and the earth, and the rolling heat waves distorted the air in the square. The people present were sweating profusely, but it did not affect their enthusiasm at all. The young minimum Yan looked at the high priest and the tribe leader on the altar, especially the tribe leader Lyrong, whose eyes were extremely fiery. I also want to be a strong warrior like the tribe leader, to be able to fight against fierce beasts and protect the tribe members. But Minimum Yan looked at his skinny body, and his eyes dimmed. When Minimum Yan was in the womb, a fierce beast broke into the tribe, which frightened Minimum Yan's mother and caused her to have a miscarriage, resulting in Minimum Yan's premature birth. Therefore, Minimum Yan's physique has always been very poor. Fortunately, Minimum Yan's grandfather was a witch doctor of the Light Tribe, who knew some simple medical skills, and the tribe was relatively rich in products, which could feed more people. This allowed Minimum Yan to grow up safely. But Minimum Yan, who had a very poor physique, was obviously not qualified to be a warrior. He could not bear the flushing of the fierce beast's precious blood. In a blink of an eye, an hour or two passed, the sacrificial ceremony was declared over, and the tribe members of the Light Tribe began to return to their respective posts and start their day's work. Although Minimum Yan is only 7 or 8 years old, he also has work to do. In primitive society, no tribe is willing to raise a waste. What Minimum Yan has to do is to learn to collect and pound herbs from the tribe's witch doctor, that is, his grandfather, and treat the injured and poisoned tribesmen. If nothing unexpected happens, Minimum Yan will become the new witch doctor of Light Tribe in the future. But he attracted the attention of Wen Dao. After the ceremony, Wen Dao's divine thoughts enveloped the entire Light Tribe. After carefully observing everyone, he finally chose this weak child. Minimum Yan was unable to carry out intense exercise activities like children of the same age due to his weak body, but he was good at using his brain, quick-witted, and intelligent. In the face of unknown things, he was always full of curiosity and exploration, and had a strong understanding. Such a person just met Wen Dao's requirements. Want to become a warrior? Wen Dao appeared above Minimum Yan and silently watched the child. In that case, I will do as you wish. At night, the earth ushered in endless darkness. In a primitive society with no nightlife, except for the necessary night watchman, most of the other adult primitive people can only engage in sports to reproduce the race. For a child like Minimum Yan, it is to go to bed early. But Minimum Yan, who was lying on the straw bed, trembled with consciousness, and then he found himself suddenly in the sky, standing on a sea of clouds, with endless clouds and mist rolling and surging. The clouds under his feet were as thick and hard as the earth, not as soft as he imagined. When he stepped on them, Minimum Yan's body did not show any tendency to fall. In front of Minimum Yan was a majestic snow-capped mountain. The mountain tops that broke out of the sea of clouds and were covered with white snow were more than 1,000 feet high, and the peaks under the sea of clouds were unknown how high they were. In the distance, a round moon the size of a house hung in the sky, casting bright white moonlight on the sea of clouds and snow-capped mountains, making the whole world look sparkling and sacred, like a fairyland. Seeing such a scene, Minimum Yan stood still. Is this the residence of the gods? It's so beautiful. Is the god sending me an oracle by appearing here? Minimum Yan's eyes became fanatical and pious. He seemed to feel that there was a voice in the dark calling him to climb the snow mountain. During the day, their light tribe had just finished the annual sacrificial ceremony, and at night Minimum Yan had such a perfect and clear dream, which made it hard for him not to think in the direction of the gods. The palace where the gods live must be on the snow mountain. With the mood of pilgrimage, Minimum Yan started to set off for the snow mountain. As soon as Minimum Yan moved, the sea of clouds began to blow gusts of wind, blowing the rolling clouds and mist like waves, and the waves were turbulent. Although the clouds condensed from water vapor were ethereal, they contained considerable resistance. Coupled with the oncoming strong wind, Minimum Yan's body seemed to be stuck in mud and sand, and every step forward was extremely difficult. But all this could not stop Minimum Yan's pilgrimage. Chapter 14 Jade B. Seeking follow-up reading. At this moment, Minimum Yan's weak body seemed to disappear. His will was extremely firm, and it seemed that he had infinite physical strength in his body, supporting him to move forward step by step. Finally, after the full moon rose and fell countless times, Minimum Yan broke through the strong wind, passed through the sea of clouds, and came to the intersection of the snow mountain and the sea of clouds. Above the sea of clouds, the snow mountain was thousands of feet high, and under the sea of clouds, there was also a mountainside of thousands of feet. The whole mountain was like a sword that pierced the sky, dividing the world. Minimum Yan looked up at the snow mountain. His eyes became sharper than at the beginning, and his will became much tougher after suffering. The snow mountain was majestic and dangerous, with cliffs everywhere. The rocks were strangely shaped and unusually smooth, as if they were chopped by knives and axes. In the next few months, Minimum Yan walked around the mountainside of the snow mountain for most of the time, but he couldn't find a mountain road to climb. Finally, Minimum Yan returned to the place where he first arrived, in front of a smooth stone wall 10 feet high. How come there is no way to climb? How can I go up the mountain to meet the gods? Minimum Yan was a little confused and didn't know what to do. The gods had clearly guided him here and used the strong wind to test his piety and will, but why was there no way for him to go up the mountain to meet the gods? Just as Minimum Yan was confused, the huge full moon rose again from the other side of the sea of clouds, and the bright white moonlight spread across the sky and earth, covering the snow-capped mountains little by little, covering Minimum Yan and the stone wall in front of him. Under the moonlight, the stone wall suddenly changed, emitting a faint jade luster, and a lifelike figure sitting cross-legged appeared in it. Miracle. Is this the instruction from the gods? Seeing the strange phenomenon on the stone wall in front of him, Minimum Yan opened his eyes wide, and the confusion on his face was swept away. His piety and awe for the gods made him kneel on the ground immediately, and he looked at the miracle revealed by the gods fanatically. The moonlight shining on the stone wall became more and more intense, condensing into tiny light spots all over the sky between heaven and earth, and then madly poured into the stone wall. The light and shadow on the stone wall seemed to have life, constantly absorbing the moonlight into the body, along the mouth and neck into the abdomen, and then these moonlights slowly merged into various parts of the body along the lines on the surface of the light and shadow. This is exactly the human body structure diagram of the Tianyuan Star humans. Of course, the body structure of the Tianyuan Star humans is still slightly different from that of the Xuxing humans. After all, after hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, a slight error in the genes will show completely different results. So even with the silent guidance of the creation system, the human body structure of the Tianyuan Star humans is still somewhat different. Looking at the human body structure diagram in front of him, Minimum Yan was stunned, his eyes fixed on it without moving. At this moment, he seemed to see the truth of heaven and earth, and saw the most fundamental mystery in the human body, and suddenly entered a state of enlightenment. In his eyes, the light and shadow on the stone wall moved, explaining to him the name of each organ in the body and its corresponding function, and countless knowledge poured out from every inch of heaven and earth, and flowed into his mind. On the top of Yunhei Snow Mountain, Wen Dao looked at Minimum Yan, who was suddenly enlightened below, with a smile on his face. Your perseverance and comprehension are both good. It seems that I did not choose the wrong person. Besides that, I will give you a golden finger. Wen Dao pointed in the air, and the stone wall in front of Minimum Yan turned into a palm-sized, flawless white jade, which fell into Minimum Yan's arms. I hope you can open up a perfect path of cultivation for the people of Tianyuan Star. As soon as the words fell, the Yunhei Snow Mountain world constructed by spiritual power began to collapse, and Minimum Yan's consciousness returned to his body, but his state of sudden enlightenment was not affected, and he was still trapped in it. 5 internal organs: heart, liver, spleen, lungs, kidneys, bone, muscle, blood vessels, meridian, acupoints, danshan. 12 meridians. 8 extraordinary meridians. Minimum Yan's consciousness seemed to have stayed in Yunhei Snow Mountain for a long time, but in reality only a quarter of an hour had passed, and Minimum Yan was in sudden enlightenment for the rest of the time. The sun broke through the darkness, the earth woke up, and the people of Light Tribe began a new day of work. The gradually noisy sound awakened Minimum Yan. Minimum Yan's eyes quickly changed from confusion to sharp and firm. Looking at the familiar wooden house layout around him, he was a little surprised. I'm back to the tribe? Then Minimum Yan asked and concluded that only one night had passed. One night, then the sea of clouds, snow-capped mountains and stone wall projections I saw were just an ordinary dream of mine? No. That is definitely not an ordinary dream. Now I still remember everything that happened in the dream clearly, and I still have the knowledge given to me by the gods in my mind. This must be a dream from the gods. Minimum Yan, who returned to the wooden house, was a little excited and firmly believed that he was chosen by the gods. At this time, Minimum Yan saw a fist-sized crystal clear white jade wall on his stone table. Under the sunlight outside the window, a figure vaguely emerged from it. What is this? Minimum Yan picked up the jade and observed it carefully. He suddenly found that the figure in the jade wall was very similar to the figure on the stone wall in his dream, and even the lines on it were exactly the same as those on the stone wall. He suddenly realized that this jade wall was formed by shrinking the 10-foot stone wall in his dream. At the same time, Minimum Yan found that when he held this jade wall, he felt that his thinking became extremely sensitive and his intelligence seemed to be improved. In the process of enlightenment, Minimum Yan's doubts about the structure of the human body were now suddenly clear. This jade wall contains a strange power that can enhance people's understanding. Moreover, Minimum Yan, who was holding the jade wall, seemed to have the ability to see inside and could see the blood vessels, bones, internal organs and the extremely small meridians in his body through his skin. In addition, with the help of the jade wall, Minimum Yan, whose mind was much sharper, also felt that there was an energy particle between heaven and earth that was countless times smaller than dust, but full of vitality. The vitality of heaven and earth. The basic information about this energy particle suddenly appeared in Minimum Yan's mind. This was the information he obtained during the enlightenment process. He knew that the energy of heaven and earth was the most basic energy that allowed the world to exist. It was because of its existence that fierce beasts and warriors appeared in this world. Is the reason why humans can become warriors because of the existence of the energy of heaven and earth in their bodies? Recalling the scene in his dream where the human body structure diagram appeared on the stone wall and absorbed the moonlight, Minimum Yan had an idea and tried to use his keen mind to feel the existence of energy particles and wanted to absorb them into his body by imitating the good. The particles of the energy of heaven and earth are not easy to absorb. Minimum Yan sat cross-legged in the room and breathed for half an hour before he absorbed a little bit of the energy of heaven and earth into his lungs and then merged it into the tiny blood vessels. Minimum Yan was shocked and quickly concentrated his mind and began to carefully circulate the energy of heaven and earth in his body according to the knowledge of muscles, blood vessels, internal organs, meridians, etc. that he suddenly realized from the human body structure diagram, trying to absorb it thoroughly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 Blood. However, this method of absorbing the energy of heaven and earth is extremely crude. Every time Minimum Yan absorbs the energy into his body, less than 1% of it can be truly integrated into his flesh and blood. The remaining 99% of the energy of heaven and earth is dissipated back into the world during the circulation process. But even with such a small amount of energy, Minimum Yan can feel his muscles shouting and groaning, and his whole body becomes stronger. His weak body has a little more strength out of thin air, so that he will not be tired because of meditation. It really works. The energy of heaven and earth can increase my strength and strengthen my body. Minimum Yan's eyes were full of excitement, and his hands could not help but clench tightly. If I can absorb enough energy of heaven and earth, I can not only be as strong as normal people, but also become a warrior who protects the tribe. Looking at the jade disc in his hand, Minimum Yan looked past, kneeling on the ground, as if worshipping the gods in the dark. Since Minimum Yan obtained the jade disc, his comprehension has greatly increased, and his wisdom is extremely high. He can understand any difficult problem as soon as he thinks about it, and he often enters a state of enlightenment. Based on the knowledge of the human body structure diagram taught by the gods, and the function of looking through the flesh through the jade disc, Minimum Yan began to look for ways to absorb the vitality of heaven and earth more easily, such as adjusting the breathing rhythm and controlling the subtle tremors of the lungs, or concentrate on controlling the muscles to better capture the particles of the vitality of heaven and earth, or find the right meridians to improve the operation efficiency, etc. Finally, after Minimum Yan's unremitting efforts, he successfully found a set of crude exercises that can speed up the practice. In the wooden house, Minimum Yan, who was already 12 years old, was flying with his fists and feet, performing various difficult movements. His whole body was steaming, and sweat was constantly flowing. At the same time, his mouth and nose were breathing according to a special rhythm, swallowing and exhaling the energy between heaven and earth. After a moment, Minimum Yan retracted his fists and fighting power, his eyes shone with a gleam of light, and he slowly exhaled a breath of turbid air. Feeling the desire of the muscles in his body, Minimum Yan was filled with joy. He reached out and grabbed the cooked meat in the stone bowl and ate it in big mouthfuls. Success. I can feel that the blood in my body has grown a little bit. 3 years have passed since Minimum Yan received the teaching. In the past 3 years, Minimum Yan has been practicing day and night to absorb the vitality of heaven and earth. At the same time, the simple exercises he figured out were also modified twice to increase the speed of practice. 3 years of hard work have allowed Minimum Yan's muscles, internal organs, etc. to be tempered and baptized by the vitality of heaven and earth twice. Today's Minimum Yan is no longer the weak boy of the past. Instead, he has a strong and muscular body, which looks full of power and explosive power. Just as it looks on the surface, Minimum Yan's strength is no weaker than that of other warriors who swallowed elixirs, or were born from the flesh and blood of fierce beasts. Minimum Yan's strength has reached 500 kilograms. 500 kilograms of strength. The bronze tripod on the central altar of the Light Tribe weighs exactly 500 kilograms. In other words, Minimum Yan can lift the bronze tripod. This set of bodybuilding boxing can really stimulate the circulation of blood and ki. As long as they practice this set of boxing techniques and eat meat tonic, other tribesmen can also cultivate blood and ki and temper their bodies. At this moment, Minimum Yan's mind is extremely clear, and his spirit is extremely excited because of the breakthrough in his realm. I can finally teach the method of blood and ki cultivation to my tribe. Minimum Yan, who was refreshed, lay on the bed, thinking with his eyes closed, how to organize language, to tell the tribe leader and witch about the method of practicing bodybuilding boxing tomorrow. Because Minimum Yan understood that the gods gave him the jade bee divine object in his dream, and he must want him to pass on the knowledge he gained in his dream and the method of absorbing the vitality of heaven and earth that he has explored over the years to the world, so that the world has the ability to fight and kill fierce beasts. Besides, Minimum Yan himself thought so. In this dangerous world, only by uniting as one can human beings resist all kinds of natural disasters and man-made disasters, resist the harassment of fierce beasts, and make the tribe stronger and more prosperous. So Minimum Yan is willing to share the method of cultivation with his tribesmen. In the past 3 years, Minimum Yan did not tell the chief and witch of the Light tribe about the method of cultivation that he had cultivated and improved twice. That's because Minimum Yan understood that this method of cultivation can only be practiced by himself. After all, other tribesmen are not like Minimum Yan, who have the jade bee divine object and cannot see inside and see their own blood vessels, muscles, internal organs, etc. Once there is a slight mistake in any muscle or internal organ during the practice, it may fall into a state of obsession. And this is a deadly situation in this primitive society with poor medical care. So Minimum Yan dare not rashly teach the method of cultivation to other tribesmen. He can only find a way to explore and create a more perfect method of cultivation that is more suitable for most people. Now, Minimum Yan has successfully verified the feasibility of blood and ki cultivation and eliminated the danger. And after countless times of practice, the method of cultivation has been fully perfected. This method of cultivation suitable for the general public, the bodybuilding boxing, was finally created by him. There are 18 forms of bodybuilding boxing, with gradually increasing difficulty, and it is also necessary to practice together according to the matching breathing method. As long as the tribesmen follow his method of cultivation, there will be no danger to their lives. In the east, the sun rises. The sun shines through the night, and the dawn quietly crosses the horizon. The sun's brilliance shines on the earth, and all things wake up from their slumber. Some tribesmen in the Light tribe began a new day of work, and curling smoke rose from all over the tribe. Ordinary tribesmen went to collect wild fruits, and take care of livestock and crops. Warriors and some warriors went deep into the mountains to hunt wild animals, and obtain meat for the tribe. Minimum Yan woke up from his sleep, simply washed his face with clean water, and brushed his teeth with a willow branch. Refreshed, Minimum Yan walked out of the wooden house, looked up at the sun in the sky, and prepared to go to the center of the tribe. However, at this moment, a fierce beast jumped over the wooden fence of the Light tribe and rushed into the tribe. Fierce beasts rushing into the tribe happened from time to time. More than a decade ago, a fierce beast rushed into the Light tribe, frightening Minimum Yan's mother, causing miscarriage and leading to Minimum Yan's premature birth. Now it's just a repeat of the story. To fierce beasts, humans are weak, but rich in nutrition, and have high hunting value. As long as they eat humans once in the wild, fierce beasts will include humans in their diet. Fierce beasts that can absorb the vitality of heaven and earth into their bodies are not only powerful, but also have a strong digestive system. The energy they need for activities is far more than that of ordinary creatures. Therefore, the number of prey that fierce beasts have to hunt for each meal is much larger. Otherwise, they can't fill their stomachs at all. Once fierce beasts fall into hunger and cannot find enough food to fill their stomachs in the wild, they will go to nearby human tribes and prey on humans. Exclamation mark. Chapter 16 Battle. Meow. A sharp cat cry echoed in the tribe, followed by several panicked and screaming sounds. Minimum Yan, who was walking on the road, moved his ears. His strong hearing allowed him to hear the sound from the other side of the tribe through dozens of wooden houses. Not good. A ferocious beast broke into the tribe. Hearing the faint roar of the beast from afar, Minimum Yan's face changed, and he ran at full speed without saying a word. As a large tribe with a population of 10,000, the Light tribe occupies a vast area, and the area around the Source River is originally the territory of the tribe. The area where the ferocious beast broke into is the edge of the tribe, and Minimum Yan, as the grandson of the tribe's witch doctor, lives inside the tribe. Therefore, the location where the ferocious beast broke into is at least 1 or 2 kilometers away from Minimum Yan. But with the blessing of blood, his speed soared, and this distance was quickly swept away by it. When Minimum Yan arrived at the scene, what came into view was the corpses all over the ground and several collapsed wooden houses. At this moment, a small team of tribal warriors patrolling around had already fought with the ferocious beast. Ordinary humans simply cannot stop the beast's attack. Even tribal warriors holding bronze weapons are the same. This is a mountain cat beast, small in size, but extremely fast and agile. Facing the siege of tribal warriors, it seems to be at ease. The mountain cat's body moved back and forth a few times, and it easily dodged the stabbing bronze spear. Then the thick fleshy palms popped out sharp claws and killed a tribal warrior under its claws. The tough leather armor worn by the tribal warriors was fragile under its claws. Minimum Yan, who came over, saw this scene. His face suddenly changed, and he was furious. Ferocious beast, you are looking for death. Minimum Yan rushed into the battle group and attacked the mountain cat beast angrily. Minimum Yan's strength reached 500 kilograms, and one palm was enough to break wood and crack rocks. The surrounding air was stirred up by this power, and bursts of whistling airflow. The mountain cat sensed the change in airflow and instinctively knew that Minimum Yan's move was extremely powerful. It jumped lightly, and jumped several meters away, avoiding Minimum Yan's angry attack. Boom. A big tree as big as a bowl was broken by Minimum Yan, and it fell to the ground with a bang, stirring up dust all over the sky. Meow. The mountain cat stared at Minimum Yan with cold pupils, and the hair on its body stood up. It felt a strong sense of threat from the boy in front of it. Minimum Yan gave the mountain cat the feeling of facing a fierce tiger in the mountains. After all, the mountain cat is just a cat. Even if it swallows the spiritual objects of heaven and earth to become a fierce beast, its physical strength will increase to a limited extent. Moreover, it is more about improving speed and agility, and its strength is relatively low. Facing Minimum Yan, who has a strength of 500 kilograms, the mountain cat does not dare to confront him head on. If it is knocked down by him, with the mountain cat's physical fitness, it will immediately fall into a state of serious injury. This human boy is far from being comparable to other humans. Exclamation mark. Boom boom boom. As expected, every attack from Minimum Yan was made with anger, causing waves of whistling palm winds. Minimum Yan's fists were like sandbags, attacking the mountain cat frantically, but it dodged and landed on the shrubs and rocks beside it, stirring up flying sand and rocks. His palms fell on the wooden house, and the wooden board suddenly exploded, leaving a half-man-high hole, and the simple wooden house became shaky. Facing such an enemy, the mountain cat could only rely on its speed advantage to constantly wander and shuttle between the tribal houses around it. From time to time, it turned into a residual image and rushed towards Minimum Yan, trying to cut him open with its extremely sharp claws like it did to the bronze warrior. Unfortunately, Minimum Yan, who had the martial arts jade disc, always had a very calm mind and was able to see every move of the mountain cat clearly and dodge in time. Therefore, the mountain cat's speed advantage was of no use to Minimum Yan. When the mountain cat saw Minimum Yan react and was ready to strike out to deal with its attack, it would immediately flee, not confronting Minimum Yan head on and not daring to face Minimum Yan's palms. After repeating this several times, neither side could do anything to the other and could only stand on the wooden roof in the other below, confronting each other. Meow. The mountain cat growled, its blue vertical pupils somewhat uneasy. With its previous experience of breaking into the light tribe, it could not stay any longer. It felt that more humans were coming here. If it stayed any longer, those strong humans would surround it. If it dragged on, the situation would only get worse. The mountain cat only entered the light tribe to hunt a few humans to fill its stomach, and it did not want to leave its life here. The mountain cat, which had a little wisdom, thought of this and immediately stopped entangled with Minimum Yan, wanting to escape from the light tribe with a corpse in its mouth. But how could Minimum Yan let it do as it wished? Seeing the mountain cat jump off the roof, holding a tribe member's corpse, and preparing to escape, Minimum Yan's eyes suddenly turned red, and he roared and rushed towards the mountain cat. With his hearing, he also heard the tribal warriors gathering here. As long as he entangled the mountain cat, the warriors and soldiers of the tribe formed a siege and restricted the movement of the mountain cat. This beast that committed murder will die without a burial place. We must not let it drag the bodies of the tribe members away. Exclamation mark. The mountain cat, which is only half the size of a calf, was holding a corpse, and its speed was greatly reduced. In addition, Minimum Yan ran desperately, frantically mobilizing the power in his body to increase his speed. Minimum Yan actually caught up with the fleeing mountain cat. The entangled mountain cat finally failed to escape. Under the siege of Minimum Yan and the warriors and bronze warriors of the tribe who came, the mountain cat was pierced through the body by a spear, ending its sinful life. The chief of the Light tribe, Lyrong, pulled out the bloody bronze spear and ordered the tribe members to bring the body of the mountain cat to the high priest. The high priest will refine the energy containing flesh and blood of the mountain cat, condense the blood pill, and give it to the strong warrior in the tribe, so that he can become a warrior. Lyrong gave a simple order to other tribesmen to treat the wounded and collect the bodies of the dead. Then his eyes fell on Minimum Yan, who was standing aside. Lyrong had seen the battle between Minimum Yan and the mountain cat just now. He knew clearly that Minimum Yan's strength was stronger than many tribal warriors. However, Lyrong did not remember that there was such a young man among the warriors in the tribe. It was impossible to select a half-grown child from the candidates for becoming a warrior. So it was obvious that there were other reasons for this boy to become a warrior. Boy, I remember that you are the grandson of Minimum Wu. You were sick before, but now you have become a warrior. Lyrong spoke in a deep voice and patted Minimum Yan's shoulder with his big hand. What kind of magic medicine did you take? Lyrong's idea was very simple. He wanted to know whether the spiritual medicine that Minimum Yan took was an unknown type in the Light tribe. If it was really unknown, it would also enrich the knowledge of spiritual medicine in the Light tribe. In the future, the hunting team of the Light tribe could also intentionally look for such spiritual medicine and cultivate more warriors. Minimum Yan looked at the sturdy man in front of him, who had always been his idol and the hero of the tribe. He took a deep breath and said, "Chief, I have never taken any magic medicine. The reason why I can become a warrior is because I encountered a miracle and received guidance from the gods." Chapter 17 Preaching. Originally, Minimum Yan was going to tell the tribe leader and the Great Witch about the method of practicing the bodybuilding fist today, and it would be the same if he told it now. What? You encountered a miracle? Lyrong was stunned, a little bit unbelieving what he heard. Afterwards, in addition to the martial arts jade disc, Minimum Yan told the tribe leader Lyrong about all the processes of his practice over the years. The vitality of heaven and earth, the method of practice, the bodybuilding fist, the blood. Hearing these words, Lyrong felt that they were impressive. But as a crude warrior, Lyrong was used to not using his brain. So after learning that Minimum Yan became a warrior on his own, Lyrong took him to the temple in the center of the tribe, to the tribe's high priest, who was also the Great Witch. It is more appropriate to leave this kind of brain-intensive matter to the Great Witch. The temple in the center of the Light tribe. The Great Witch Zhu listened to Minimum Yan's story, and his eyes became brighter and brighter. With rich experience, he immediately judged that Minimum Yan was not lying. After all, in this primitive era, no one knew what the heaven and earth ki, blood ki, and internal organs were. No one knew what the internal structure of the human body was, and they couldn't make it up. What's more, Minimum Yan himself is the best example. If it weren't for a miracle, how could Minimum Yan, a child who had been ill since childhood, become a powerful warrior? Moreover, the bodybuilding, boxing, and the accompanying breathing method he performed looked really like the same thing. However, although the Great Witch believed it 9 points in his heart, he still chose to verify what Minimum Yan said. Under the instructions of the Great Witch, Minimum Yan taught the bodybuilding, boxing, and breathing method to a tribal warrior. Then let the tribal warriors follow the method of cultivation mentioned by Minimum Yan, and start to perform one action after another. After performing the 5 actions he remembered, the tribal warrior stopped and wolfed down a large piece of mountain cat meat. High Priest, I feel my power has really grown a little bit. As Minimum Yan said, this warrior clearly felt the energy of heaven and earth and the energy contained in the mountain cat's flesh and blood pouring into his body, making his power stronger. Exclamation mark. But he did not go crazy like those warriors who rashly absorbed the energy of heaven and earth into their bodies and did not feel any discomfort. Exclamation mark. It's really a miracle. The gods have once again given us enlightenment and given us a way to become stronger. The great witch's eyes were filled with tears, and his old body knelt down under the fire pillar of the temple, dedicating his most devout faith. Lirong, Minimum Yan, the temple priests, and the guards on the side also knelt on the ground, following the great witch's fanatical shouting for the gods to bless them. After a long time, the great witch Zhu stood up and said solemnly, Minimum Yan, you have received the revelation of the gods, and are the spokesperson of the gods in the world. You will become the next chief of my light tribe. After seeing the peculiar method of practicing the bodybuilding fist, the great witch Zhu and the chief Lirong of the light tribe immediately believed what Minimum Yan said. They regarded Minimum Yan as the spokesperson of the gods in the world, and wanted Minimum Yan to become the next chief of the light tribe. But Minimum Yan was not interested in this. In the 5 years since he obtained the martial arts jade, Minimum Yan thought about it countless times in his heart, thinking that the gods gave him the martial arts jade to let him spread martial arts in this world, and teach the method of practice to everyone. Just like hundreds of years ago, the ancestor of characters Z traveled all over the world and spread characters to all tribes. This is his mission! Exclamation mark. The mission given to him by the gods! Exclamation mark. So Minimum Yan didn't want to limit his steps to the light tribe. He would leave here one day. After knowing Minimum Yan's ambition, the great witch Zhu and Lirong expressed their support for him, while expressing their regret. After all, in this primitive society, the number of humans is small. As long as you work hard, you can get enough resources from nature. Humans are fighting against nature. There is not much conflict between people, and they even support each other. So Minimum Yan's dedication is normal in their eyes. In the following years, Minimum Yan taught the blood and ki martial arts practice method he created to the people of Light Tribe without reservation. Of course, before the tribesmen practice, they need to learn some knowledge first, know what muscles, internal organs, meridians, and blood and ki are. Only by understanding the human body structure diagram can they find the correct position of internal organs and muscles. Then practice according to Professor Minimum Yan's bodybuilding boxing, and the matching breathing method to find blood and ki. Otherwise, if you are not careful, you may end up with a dislocated internal organ, blood and ki running wild, and going crazy. At the least, they will become useless for the rest of their lives, and at the worst, they will die. The first people to master the method of practicing the bodybuilding boxing were naturally the tribal warriors who already possessed extraordinary powers. They already had some blood and energy in their bodies by swallowing spiritual medicines in the flesh and blood of fierce beasts, and they did not need to sense the energy in their bodies from nothing. They only needed to follow the bodybuilding boxing and the accompanying breathing method taught by Professor Minimum Yan, and exercise according to the bodybuilding posture step by step. As for ordinary tribesmen, in addition to learning the bodybuilding boxing and breathing method, they also needed to rely on themselves to sense the free vital energy particles between heaven and earth, which was even more difficult. But on Tianyuan Star, there are spiritual medicines and fierce beasts. With the spiritual medicines in the flesh and blood of fierce beasts as a guide, it is easier for people to sense the vital energy of heaven and earth. As long as a trace of vital energy seeds are planted in the body and a trace of blood and energy is extracted, even if it is officially raised to the threshold of martial arts, you can slowly sense and absorb the vital energy of heaven and earth, and strengthen the blood and energy. Before Minimum Yan, the warriors in the Light Tribe were born in this way. Now with the bodybuilding fist and breathing method, the cost and difficulty of becoming a warrior have been reduced several times. Like the mountain cat, that is half the size of a calf. According to the original method, its flesh and blood can barely make one tribal warrior a warrior. But after using the bodybuilding fist, the blood and flesh of the mountain cat can make 7 or 8 people become warriors! Exclamation mark. What's more, the Light Tribe is a large tribe with more than 10,000 people, which can be said to be a behemoth in this era. With such a population base, some martial arts geniuses can naturally be born. They are born with strong spiritual perception, are more sensitive to the vitality of heaven and earth, and can better enter the martial arts. Therefore, many tribesmen in the Light Tribe have successively sensed the vitality of heaven and earth by themselves, after learning the bodybuilding fist and breathing method, stepped into the threshold of martial arts, and became a warrior. As the largest tribe within 1,000 miles, there are hundreds of small tribes around the Light Tribe. There is a lot of connection between tribes, such as the primitive market for exchanging materials, that opens every once in a while. So as more and more warriors were born in the light tribe, these small tribes consciously inquired about the news, and learned that a spokesperson for the gods appeared in the light tribe. He was given a method by the gods that could make ordinary people become warriors. Of course, they were able to know this, mainly because the light tribe did not specifically block the news. Because Minimum Yan wanted to spread the martial arts. Minimum Yan was also happy that small tribe sent people to the light tribe to learn the bodybuilding boxing. When these people have learned something, they will bring the practice method back to their own tribes to speed up the spread of martial arts. Chapter 18 Realm. 8 years passed in a blink of an eye, and Minimum Yan was 20 years old. Now there are more than 200 warriors in the light tribe. Most of them are inferior warriors, and there are 15 warriors who have reached the first level. As for warriors at a higher level, there is no one except Minimum Yan! Yes, in these years, Minimum Yan has not only further improved the bodybuilding fist, but also updated its version 3 times, increasing the number of moves to 27. He also created 2 new martial arts techniques, based on the physical conditions of many warriors, and taught them out. Moreover, Minimum Yan's own strength has also increased several times! Minimum Yan roughly divided the martial arts realm according to his own practice and strength over the years. According to the bronze tripod used by the light tribe to worship the gods, Minimum Yan classified the warriors whose strength did not reach the strength of a tripod, about 500 katas. In fact, the Tianyuan humans at this time did not have the concept of katas as inferior. The warriors whose strength reaches the power of 1 tripod to 3 tripods are at the first level of martial arts. The warriors whose strength reaches a power of 4 tripods and above are at the second level of martial arts. Moreover, in order to break through from the first level of martial arts to the second level of martial arts, in addition to the need to increase strength, there is also a huge sign. That is, the warriors of the second level of martial arts can move the blood and ki in the body. It is precisely because of the ability to move blood and ki in the body that the powerful force contained in the blood and ki can be better exerted, thereby breaking the limit of human strength and reaching the power of 3 tripods or more. At the same time, the movement of blood and ki can also speed up the speed and efficiency of warriors absorbing the vitality of heaven and earth. Minimum Yan was not stingy with the method of moving blood and ki, and also taught it to others. However, when other people move blood and ki, they need to be careful and find out the location of their own blood and ki in the situation of the transportation route little by little. Otherwise, it is easy to make mistakes. In the past 8 years, many warriors who were eager for success have died because of going astray. It left a painful and profound experience for other warriors in the light tribe. This year, Minimum Yan, whose strength has greatly increased, began his journey of preaching. Most of the tribes within 1,000 miles of light tribe have the martial arts created by Minimum Yan. So Minimum Yan's goal of preaching this time is other places on the continent. Minimum Yan's first stop for preaching is the south of the continent. In a primitive society without maps and roads, it is very difficult to go out. Minimum Yan roughly identified the direction based on the position of the sun, moon, and stars in the sky, and traveled through mountains and rivers, overcoming countless obstacles. It is also thanks to his strength that he has reached the second level of martial arts, strong physical fitness, and the power of 4 tripods. In this world, it can be said that he is the top existence. Today, Minimum Yan is not at all inferior, even if he encounters the most ferocious beast Tyrannosaurus Rex on Tianyuan Star. Even if he can't beat it, Minimum Yan can also use his small size advantage to get rid of the pursuit of Tyrannosaurus Rex. On the way south, every time he arrives at a new tribe, Minimum Yan will leave the 3 cultivation methods he created and guide in the tribe for 1 or 2 months. While spreading the martial arts, Minimum Yan did not fall behind in his practice. Based on the human body structure diagram, Minimum Yan explored ways to transport blood and ki, allowing blood and ki to circulate throughout the body and increase the range of absorbing the vitality of heaven and earth. As a result, his blood and ki became more and more abundant and strong, and the power he brought became stronger. Finally, when Minimum Yan was 35 years old, the 15th year of his preaching, Minimum Yan reached a new human limit. Minimum Yan's blood and ki were already extremely strong. After being washed and tempered by blood and ki, his strength changed dramatically again, and he possessed the power of 6 tripods. At this level, the warrior is no longer a human being, and his divine power can easily defeat hundreds or thousands of people. Exclamation mark. With one punch, it is easy to break a monument and split a stone. In fact, Minimum Yan had reached the power of 6 tripods as early as the age of 30. But in the following years, no matter how Minimum Yan transported blood and ki, or how he created new ways to transport blood and ki, he could no longer absorb more vitality of heaven and earth, and could not transform it into more blood and ki. It seems that the human body can only hold so much blood and ki, and the power of the 6 tripods is already the limit of human power. But Minimum Yan doesn't think so. He thinks that humans have great potential, and the power of the human body will not be limited to the power of the 6 tripods. I feel that martial arts has not come to an end. There is still a new realm above the 2nd level of martial arts. Minimum Yan held the martial arts jade disc in his hand, and looked at his body carefully. The human body contains endless treasures. As long as they are developed, the strength can continue to increase. So Minimum Yan began to change his thinking. After Minimum Yan learned the method of cultivation from a tribe, he set out on the road again. But this time, in addition to preaching, he was also looking for a new direction to improve the realm of martial arts. 5 years later, Minimum Yan was 40 years old. On this day, Minimum Yan passed by a tribe in the west of Tianyuan Star. It was autumn, and the weather was clear and crisp. Several fruit trees in this tribe were full of fruits, and were full of red fruits. Outside the tribal fence, several acres of fertile fields were harvested by the tribesmen, with golden grains bending the rice stalks. Minimum Yan followed today's teachings completely, standing on the edge of the tribe, watching the sun gradually setting in the sky, and watching the people harvesting crops on the side, with a calm heart. Seeing people harvesting crops, and packing the millet and straw together on the rattan. In order to put down more millet, one person pulled the rattan tightly, compressed the volume of the millet straw, and tied the rattan with effort. Suddenly, Minimum Yan's mind flashed, and the martial arts jade on his chest emitted a faint white light, as if it was blessed by some kind of power, which greatly increased its effect. As the owner of the jade, Minimum Yan was affected, and his wisdom and understanding were sublimated at this moment. Countless wonderful ideas emerged in his mind. Yes. Since the human body is full of blood and ki, it can't accommodate more blood and ki. Then why don't I compress the blood and ki in my body, like compressing millet stalks, so that the human body can make new space to accommodate new blood and ki? Minimum Yan's eyes, which contained vicissitudes of life, lit up, and he immediately recorded this idea on the animal skin he carried with him. Over the years, Minimum Yan has recorded at least tens of thousands of words about martial arts, densely imprinted on hundreds of animal skins. Every new method of blood and ki circulation, the new feeling of tempering the body, and its impact on various parts of the body are all included. If someone can get Minimum Yan's animal skin, the road to martial arts will not be smooth, but it will also take fewer teachers, and there is a great chance to reach the 2nd level of martial arts. Now that he has grasped the idea of improving the realm of martial arts, Minimum Yan naturally has to record it as soon as possible. As for whether this idea is feasible, Minimum Yan needs to verify it in person in the future. Practice is the truth that tests everything. Chapter 19 Martial Ancestor. Minimum Yan's mind was agitated, and the more he thought about it, the more he felt that this method was feasible. He immediately returned to his temporary residence in this tribe, and told the tribe's chief and priest not to disturb him. The tribe's chief and priest naturally agreed immediately, and sent the tribe's only few warriors to guard Minimum Yan's residence. Minimum Yan sat cross-legged, took a few deep breaths, and calmed his inner restlessness. Soon after, Minimum Yan held the martial arts jade disc in his hand, and his mind was highly concentrated, and he began to look inside his body. As the martial arts technique was running, Minimum Yan's blood and ki flowed through his blood vessels and meridians like a rushing river, emitting a faint spiritual light. Compress the blood and ki. Minimum Yan's spiritual thoughts diverged, covering the two small drops of blood and ki, imagining the blood and ki as millet and straw, and trying to compress the two together little by little. However, this process is destined to be difficult. Under the blessing of the martial arts jade disc, Minimum Yan's thoughts also found it very difficult to compress and condense the blood and ki. After 3 days and 3 nights, when Minimum Yan's mind was almost exhausted, the two small drops of blood in his body successfully merged and condensed into a drop of blood with a darker blood color. It works. Feeling that this drop of blood was obviously richer than other blood, Minimum Yan's tired face showed a smile. Then he couldn't hold on any longer and fell on the bed, falling into a deep sleep. Next, Minimum Yan, who found the direction, lived in this small tribe with a population of only 500 or 600 people. Minimum Yan stayed for 3 months. After compressing and condensing blood countless times, Minimum Yan successfully figured out a method of blood condensation, which made the blood compression and condensation speed faster. During this period, Minimum Yan's strength, which had reached its limit, was broken and began to increase slowly, increasing by another 500 kilograms. Condensing blood essence. This is the 3rd level of martial arts, and the strength is above the power of 7 tripods. Looking at the rising sun in the distance, a faint invisible purple light appeared on the horizon, and Minimum Yan laughed. There are 3 levels of martial arts. The first level is to temper the body and breed blood and ki. The second level is to transport blood and ki. The third level is to condense blood and ki. After successfully breaking through the 3rd level of martial arts, Minimum Yan's journey of preaching did not end. Years of preaching have greatly tempered Minimum Yan's spirit, and his heart of martial arts has become more and more determined. He continued to move towards the areas he had not reached and continued to complete his mission. In a blink of an eye, another 10 years passed. Minimum Yan traveled all over the Tianyuan continent, passing through countless tribes, bringing them martial arts techniques, and spreading martial arts knowledge. Minimum Yan's powerful and selfless spirit spread among various human tribes. Everyone knew that he was the spokesperson of the gods in the world, bringing the gods' gifts to the world. Like the word ancestors hundreds of years ago, Minimum Yan was honored by the human tribes on Tianyuan Star as Martial Ancestor. Cheoxi Pavilion. While Minimum Yan was preaching to various places on Tianyuan Star, Wen Dao was also following his every move through the world log of the Tianyuan Dao system. In the 84th year of the Extraordinary Era, Minimum Yan entered the 3rd level of martial arts, the blood coagulation realm, and his strength reached the 7th level. He was revered as the Martial Ancestor by the people of Tianyuan Star. When he saw Minimum Yan enter the 3rd level of martial arts, Wen Dao couldn't help but smile. This little guy really didn't disappoint me. The martial arts system of Tianyuan realm was really created in his hands. Good. Wen Dao was very happy. He could feel that as Minimum Yan continued to spread martial arts skills, more and more people practiced martial arts, transformed human strength into blood and became warriors. A trace of a brand new civilization atmosphere gradually emerged in Tianyuan realm, pouring in from every corner of the world, and the seeds of Tianyuan civilization located deep in the world. It made its size bigger and bigger, and gradually moved from illusion to reality. This kind of civilization atmosphere has never appeared on Zuxing. This is the breath of martial arts civilization! Exclamation mark. It is not like the aura of civilization created by the previous ancestor of characters, Z, when he created characters. This is a process that occurs when civilizations in all worlds are born. It is the aura of civilization that is unique to Tianyuan Star! Exclamation mark. Supernormal power. Wen Dao looked at a bud of the world tree with a burning gaze, which carried the Tianyuan realm, and connected the fragment of the void where it was located. Although the blood ki martial arts is weak, it is the beginning of the supernormal system. I can feel that the suppression of the world tree by the main universe has loosened a little. Wen Dao's mind moved, and the seedling of the world tree in the sea of consciousness swayed slightly, and the tiny roots cut through the void, and the distance that could be extended in the main universe was a little further. It was only 1 step away from the nearest moon star. The 3rd level of martial arts. Wen Dao read Minimum Yan's decades of experience. The blood ki martial arts of the Tianyuan realm is still in its infancy, and it is not truly supernormal. According to the classification of power by the World Tree, this third level of martial arts can barely be regarded as a level among the heavens, and it is still the weaker kind. There are countless cultivation systems in the heavens and myriad worlds, such as the immortal system, magic system, witchcraft system, martial soul system, etc. Each cultivation system has different realm names. So in order to better compare the strength of practitioners in different systems, some powerful people and forces who are qualified to walk in the heavens have a rough level division standard, based on factors such as life level and soul realm, not simply based on combat power. The World Tree is a chaotic spiritual root. At the beginning of its birth, it naturally obtained this information from the chaos, and Wen Dao, who inherited the World Tree, is more inclined to this kind of mind. Today, Wen Dao, after the baptism of the origin of the World Tree, his body's life level and soul realm are the third level of the heavens. But if the World Tree in its seedling stage is counted, Wen Dao's realm is the sixth level of the heavens. Wen Dao's eyes fell on Tianyuan Star through the void, looking at minimum and above, full of expectations. When the blood key martial arts system is perfected to the second and third levels of the heavens, more and stronger warriors will be born. It will produce more martial arts civilization, allowing the Tianyuan realm to be promoted to the upper dust world, or even the Hengshou world. At that time, the World Tree will not only be able to extend its roots to other planets in the solar system, but it may also be able to break the fetal membrane of the main universe, and extend its power to the Chaos Sea. Wen Dao did not forget that he and the World Tree were both visitors from another world. Outside this magic-free universe, there is also a vast and boundless Chaos Sea, in which there are countless worlds. These countless worlds contain infinite mysteries. If Wen Dao can incorporate these worlds into the World Tree, then he and the World Tree will grow rapidly. By then, the Tianyuan realm can also condense a blood key martial arts lore of the small world level. With the help of the martial arts lore of the Tianyuan realm, I can break the magic-free lore of this universe bit by bit and let the extraordinary era come. Chapter 20. Do you want to travel through time? Of course, this process is difficult. Before that, Wen Dao needs to let the martial arts system of Tianyuan realm spread in Zuxing. In this way, the martial arts civilization can be integrated into the main universe and recognized by the main universe. Otherwise, as soon as the blood and key martial arts lore is condensed in Tianyuan realm, the magic-free rules of the main universe may immediately descend and shatter it. But how to spread the blood and key martial arts system of Tianyuan realm in Zuxing? Wen Dao pondered. It's too troublesome to spread the cultivation system by myself. It's better to choose someone like Minimum Yan to spread it on my behalf. The blood and key martial arts system has been born, and what is needed is for people to go and learn and come back to spread it. If you want people to spread the blood and key martial arts system, first of all, he himself needs to have a good attainment in the blood and key martial arts system. Only in this way can he be qualified to teach others blood and key martial arts. So Wen Dao either lets the native human warriors of Tianyuan Star get it to Zuxing. After the death of a warrior from Tianyuan Star, Wen Dao would preserve his soul and let it enter the body of a human from the ancestor star who just died, so that he could live a new life. Then he could naturally spread the blood and key martial arts on the ancestor star. Or he could bring the human from the ancestor star to Tianyuan Star, and then guide him to the blood and key martial arts to become a warrior, and then let him return to the ancestor star after he has achieved something. That is to say, artificially create a time traveler. Wen Dao smiled. Now the time ratio between Tianyuan Star and ancestor star is relatively large, reaching 1 day to 100 years. The time traveler experiences a life on Tianyuan Star and lives for hundreds of years, and the ancestor star will only have passed 1 day at most, so things will not change. Of these two methods, Wen Dao prefers the second one. Because compared with the warriors from Tianyuan Star, the people from the ancestor star have richer ideas and thoughts. They are more receptive to the concept of time travel and can better integrate into Tianyuan Star. If we bring the traverses from Zuxing to Tianyuan and contact the blood key martial arts, the modern ideas they possess may bring new development directions, open up the martial arts system, and make the martial arts civilization more prosperous. Later, when they return to Zuxing, they will be more receptive and then slowly spread the martial arts. Unlike the warriors of Tianyuan, They are essentially primitive people with confused thoughts. After traveling to Zuxing and seeing modern products, they may regard Zuxing as the god realm and find it extremely difficult to integrate into modern society. For the sake of life, it may cause bad influences, such as starting a fight on Zuxing, becoming the king, and then being killed by modern weapons. The current Blood Key martial arts has just started, and the warriors are too weak to compete with modern weapons. Wen Dao thought about it. Let's do it both ways. First, bring modern traverses to Tianyuan, and then bring them to Zuxing when the civilization of Tianyuan develops to a certain level in the future. After thinking it through, Wen Dao immediately took action and began to implement the traverser plan. Do you want to rule the world? Do you want to have many wives and concubines? Do you want to be rich enough to rival a country? Do you want to become an immortal? Do you want to fight against the sky? Do you want to be immortal? If you do, then click this button. Join our army of time travelers. If you are about to travel through time, which world would you most like to travel to? Ancient world B, magic world C, martial arts world D, fantasy world D, cultivation world F, primitive world. Hello everyone, I'm the multiverse manager / transcendent, and now I'm providing 666 free time travel opportunities. Just reply 6 to get a free time travel opportunity. The number is limited, and it is on a first come, first served basis. On this day, thousands of advertisements, posts, videos, and comments of the above types appeared on major software apps in Zuxia country, such as Douyin, Tiba, Weibo, and Endpoint. Countless netizens saw these. The vast majority of people disdained them and flipped through them without staying for a second. But the most abundant thing in the online world is people who like to have fun. Countless people click the button in the advertisement out of boredom and reply 6 in the comment area of videos and posts. They discuss enthusiastically which world is better to travel to and how to use modern knowledge to show off in another world. One moment they discuss how to make salt and smelt metals in ancient times, the next moment they discuss whether Taoist scriptures such as the Tao Te Ching can be practiced. It's so lively. Chang'an University. Guteng was reading the comment area of a novel at the end and suddenly saw a post that provided the opportunity to travel through time. He smiled and decisively replied a 6 in the comment area. After replying, Guteng continued to return to the sea of books. As a senior bookworm, Guteng has longed for travel through time and wants to experience a different life. Unfortunately, he knew very well that travel through time does not exist in this world. The action just now was just Guteng's whim, a boring act to kill time. Anyone who really believes this thing is crazy. However, what Guteng didn't know was that shortly after he replied, his location was locked. Then a faint breath crossed the space, found him accurately, and marked his soul. Yes, these posts, comments, and videos on the internet were all made by Wen Dao. As for how he put so many advertisements, comments, videos, and posts on the internet at once, and the accounts posted were different, and the IP addresses were distributed all over the world. This is all thanks to the Cheyenne Dao system in Wen Dao's hands. As a system formed by the laws of the Cheyenne Dao of a small world of dust, it can barely be regarded as an artificial intelligence. Especially after Wen Dao let it travel on the internet for a few hours and learned all the network technologies on the ancestral star today. The network capabilities of the Cheyenne Dao system are beyond imagination. On the ancestral star, except for some areas that are manually disconnected from the internet or information recorded on paper, there is nothing else that can be hidden from it. So Wen Dao directly let it spread these posts and comments on the internet without worrying about exposing himself. After all, the Cheyenne Dao system is far away in another world. It is the Cheyenne Dao of the Tianyuan world. How can the network technology of the ancestral star be tracked? Once someone expresses the intention to cross in the post, the Cheyenne Dao system will immediately search out all the information about this person from childhood to adulthood. There are many people who like to have fun among the netizens of Zuxia country. Wen Dao cannot let all of them travel to Tianyuan realm at once. He only needs a small part. Therefore, among these netizens, the Cheyenne Dao system will simply infer his IQ, thinking ability, skills, etc. through the collected information and select the top 1000 best people. then transmit their location, appearance and other information to Wen Dao. Although the world tree owned by Wen Dao is small, its roots can easily cover the entire ancestral star. So Wen Dao can easily find these 1000 people and mark them in their souls. Wen Dao only needs a thought to get the souls of these 1000 people out and throw them into Tianyuan realm. Let them become the first batch of travelers to travel to Tianyuan Star. In the Cheoxi pavilion, Wen Dao tasted a cup of tea and glanced at the clock lightly. The selection of the travelers is completed and we will start the travel in 5 days. The current Tianyuan realm is still in the period when the blood and ki martial arts have just been born. At the beginning, Wen Dao wanted to let the development of the cultivation system be left to the native humans of Tianyuan Star. After a few hundred years, when the blood and ki martial arts had developed to a certain level and reached a certain bottleneck limit, he would send in time travelers to bring different vitality to the world and promote the continued progress of the blood and ki martial arts system. Exclamation mark. Chapter 21 Asking for help. While Wen Dao was selecting the travelers, the changes on Tianyuan Star did not stop at all. Minimum Yan spent 40 years traveling all over the Tianyuan continent, spreading the blood ki martial arts system and cultivation methods throughout the world. The 3-level division of martial arts realms was also recognized by the world. The first level of martial arts, the blood ki realm. The second level of martial arts, the blood moving realm. The third level of martial arts, the blood coagulating realm. The strength of the warriors in each realm is very different. It is really a realm with a different level. When Minimum Yan was 60 years old, he returned to his homeland, the Light Tribe. The tribes on the Tianyuan continent felt Minimum Yan's achievements and regarded him as the ancestor of martial arts and regarded the Light Tribe as a martial arts holy land. Thousands of miles around, tens of thousands of tribes all respected the Light Tribe. Some people even regarded Minimum Yan as the common master of the world and the leader of the human race. While Minimum Yan was preaching, other human warriors also burst out with their own wisdom. There is no shortage of geniuses among humans. Based on the techniques taught by Minimum Yan, they have modified and improved them and have created other methods of cultivating blood and ki. For example, the bodybuilding, boxing, and breathing method that Minimum Yan first spread were to help people better sense and absorb the vitality of heaven and earth and increase the blood and ki in the body little by little. However, there are only a few humans in this world who have strong souls and can sense the vitality of heaven and earth. So in order to allow more people to become warriors, Minimum Yan and other talented warriors have slowly created techniques over the years to sense and increase blood and ki by eating a large amount of ordinary beasts. After all, blood and ki are essentially physical strength and blood and flesh strength. Through special training methods, the physical body is strengthened and the blood and ki are made strong enough to be sensed, and naturally, the blood and ki can be used to become a warrior. In this way, the number of warriors on Tianyuan Star has increased greatly. However, this type of technique has a great disadvantage when it comes to the second level of martial arts, the blood moving realm. The blood moving realm requires moving blood and ki all over the body, which consumes a lot of energy and requires a lot of food to maintain normal activities. It is not too much for a warrior in the blood moving realm to eat a whole cow for one meal. But if a warrior in the blood moving realm absorbs the vitality of heaven and earth, it is different. He can eat a normal amount like a normal person. Because vitality is a high energy particle, it can support the normal activities of a warrior in the blood moving realm. Therefore, if you want to break through to the second level of martial arts, warriors still need to sense and absorb the vitality of heaven and earth. Otherwise, they have no chance of entering the third level of martial arts. On the other hand, because warriors from various tribes need to hunt, resist wild beasts and fierce beasts, and conflict with warriors from other tribes, etc., they often fight. In order to better exert their own strength in battle, make better use of their blood and energy, win, and hunt food, warriors began to study the method of fighting, and created many martial arts. All of these have given birth to more and more martial arts civilization on Tianyuan Star, and continuously strengthened the seeds of civilization. Light Tribe. The morning sun rises, and the bright sunlight dispels the cold air on the earth. At this moment, almost all the tribesmen in the Light Tribe have come out to start a day's work. Even children of 6 or 7 years old got up and came to an open space in the center of the tribe to start the traditional morning exercises. In front of a large group of children, there was an old man with a burly figure and wearing an animal skin skirt, looking at them kindly. Although the old man looked very old, his body was still strong and sturdy, and the muscles on his arms bulged, which contained great power. In fact, it was true. The old man was the strongest of the Light tribe, the pioneer of the martial arts system of the Tianyuan continent, the Martial Ancestor Minimum. He was one of the only 3 martial artists in the Light tribe who had reached the 3rd level of martial arts, the blood coagulation realm. Every child looked at Minimum Yan with admiration and respect. They all grew up listening to Minimum Yan's stories and regarded Minimum Yan as their biggest idol. Minimum Yan put his hands behind his back and said kindly, "Children, if you want to become a warrior, you must train hard from a young age. On the road of martial arts, only perseverance." As usual, Minimum Yan taught the children to learn, revise the bodybuilding fist after more than 10 times, and corrected their postures. But what is different from usual is that today, a bloody outsider came to the Light tribe. "You said that a giant Tyrannosaurus Rex beast appeared in the Nankang jungle? In a stone, housed in the Light tribe." Minimum Yan stared at the middle-aged warrior in front of him who had treated his injuries. "Yes, Lord Wuzhu," the middle-aged warrior answered, his tone still full of fear. "That giant Tyrannosaurus Rex beast jumped 30 meters high, far beyond the ordinary Tyrannosaurus Rex beast. Even the most powerful patriarch of my Li tribe is not his opponent." The middle-aged warrior burst into tears. "My tribe was destroyed by it, and the tribe members suffered heavy casualties." Minimum Yan had some impression of the Li tribe. This is a large tribe that is no less than the size of the Light tribe. There are more than 10,000 tribesmen and many warriors, and there are no less than 20 warriors in the blood-moving realm. The tribe leader of the Li tribe has reached the 3rd level of martial arts, with the strength of 7 tripods, and is a famous blood coagulation realm warrior in the world. Unexpectedly, such a powerful warrior was also killed by a fierce beast. Thinking of this, Minimum Yan was puzzled. Since the birth of the martial arts system, humans have regained their dominance on Tianyuan Star. The fierce beasts that threatened the survival of human tribes decades ago could only flee in the face of warriors in the blood-moving realm and blood coagulation realm. Humans have regained their original territory step by step. After all, according to the martial arts system divided by Minimum Yan, the fierce beasts on the Tianyuan continent should be in the 1st level of the blood key realm. In terms of size, humans can also be called large and medium-sized animals. Human warriors are stronger than most fierce beasts of the same realm, such as the mountain cat that Minimum Yan killed when he was a child. But beasts like Tyrannosaurus Rex, mammoths, and saber-toothed tigers are much stronger than ordinary human warriors in the blood key realm in terms of strength and speed, because of their larger size, and can be compared with warriors in the blood-moving realm. After all, even an ordinary elephant weighs several tons in flesh alone, which is thousands of kilograms. You should know that the maximum strength of a warrior at the peak of the blood-moving realm is a strength of 6 tripods, which is 3,000 kilograms. Of course, facing the higher realm of the blood coagulation realm, these large beasts are no match at all. Because human warriors have combat skills in addition to strength, they can better exert their own strength. Minimum Yan really couldn't figure out how the patriarch of the Li tribe could die in the mouth of the Tyrannosaurus Rex beast. The middle-aged man said in fear, "Master Wuzhu, that is not an ordinary Tyrannosaurus Rex beast. Its body is like a small mountain, 20 or 30 meters high." 20 or 30 meters? Minimum Yan's face finally moved at this moment. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22, The Fierce Beast Tyrannosaurus Rex. The height of an ordinary Tyrannosaurus Rex is generally about 10 meters. Even after becoming a supernatural creature, it is generally only 14 or 15 meters, and the growth in size is not too exaggerated. However, Minimum Yan has traveled throughout the Tianyuan continent for decades, and has never seen a Tyrannosaurus Rex beast of 20 or 30 meters. Minimum Yan thought to himself, Could this Tyrannosaurus Rex beast have broken through to the blood-moving realm? Otherwise, the size of the Tyrannosaurus Rex beast would not have increased so much. This is no longer a species without the Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's like a 3-meter giant appearing among humans. Master Wuzhu, the beast is now slaughtering the tribes near the Nankang jungle. The middle-aged man knelt on the ground fiercely, including my Li tribe. Dozens of tribes around the Nankang jungle have been destroyed by this beast, and countless people have been swallowed by the beast. Ordinary warriors are no match for it. He kowtowed heavily and said, "Please help us, Master Wuzhu." Blood Ki martial arts has been spread in Tianyuan continent for 60 or 70 years, but the number of warriors in the third level of martial arts is still very rare. The Light tribe has minimum Yan sitting in the guidance, and only 2 have been born in so many years, which shows how difficult it is to reach the third level of martial arts. Now that the patriarch of the Li tribe has died, there are no more blood coagulation warriors in the Nankang jungle. Ordinary warriors will be killed by the beast Tyrannosaurus Rex as soon as they meet. It is not that the Li tribe has not thought about using the advantage of numbers to besiege the Tyrannosaurus Rex beast. After all, when the Blood Ki martial arts was not yet prosperous, large tribes relied on bronze warriors to kill beasts. But this Tyrannosaurus Rex beast is huge, full of blood, with tough muscles and hard scales, which is far beyond the reach of ordinary beasts. The bronze spear pierced the Tyrannosaurus Rex, but could only barely pierce its scales and shallowly penetrated its flesh and blood by 1 or 2 inches. Compared with the height of the Tyrannosaurus Rex of 20 to 30 meters, 1 or 2 inches of flesh and blood is like a wooden thorn piercing human skin, which can't cause great damage to it at all. But a sweep of the Tyrannosaurus Rex's tail can kill, or seriously injure dozens of human warriors. And if there are dozens of Blood Ki realm and blood moving realm warriors, they will work together to surround and kill the Tyrannosaurus Rex beast. It will avoid its sharp edge and temporarily retreat to the jungle, using the environmental advantage to destroy the warrior's siege. After the baptism of the vitality of heaven and earth, the wisdom of the beast has greatly increased, not to mention this Tyrannosaurus Rex that far exceeds ordinary beasts. Its wisdom is not inferior to that of humans at all. Exclamation mark. It is precisely because of this behavior of the Tyrannosaurus Rex beast that the tribes near the Nankang jungle are miserable. In just 3 or 4 months, more than a dozen medium-sized and small tribes were defeated by the Tyrannosaurus Rex. The Li tribe is now on the verge of collapse. That's why the Li tribe sent a middle-aged man to the Light tribe, which is more than 1,000 miles away, to seek help. After listening to the middle-aged man's explanation of the cause and effect, Minimum Yan was silent for a moment and said, "As a human being, killing the beast is natural. I'll call Li Feng and Minimum Chang here, and the 3 of us will go together to kill the Tyrannosaurus Rex." Li Feng and Minimum Chang are the remaining 2 warriors of the Light tribe, who are in the 3rd level of martial arts, the blood coagulation realm. The animal skin warriors waiting outside the stone house went to inform the 2 as quickly as possible. More than 10 minutes later, 2 middle-aged men wearing gorgeous furs walked into the stone house. The furs on their bodies came from a mammoth beast and a saber-toothed tiger beast, respectively, and they were greeted by a fierce and domineering aura. It represents their supreme strength and status. "Master." Li Feng and Minimum Chang saluted Minimum Yan respectfully. Minimum Yan nodded slightly and briefly explained the matter of the Tyrannosaurus Rex beast to the 2. "This Tyrannosaurus Rex beast is much stronger than the mammoths and saber-toothed tigers you hunted." Minimum Yan said, "I suspect that it has broken through the body limit of the beast and reached the level of moving blood and ki. A beast in the blood moving realm." Li Feng smacked his lips, his face solemn. The strength of ordinary large beasts in the blood and ki realm can be compared with the peak warriors in the blood moving realm. Now a beast in the blood moving realm has appeared, and its strength can obviously threaten the warriors in the blood coagulation realm. No, to be precise, it is stronger than the average warrior in the blood coagulation realm. Don't you see that the patriarch of the tribe died in the mouth of this Tyrannosaurus Rex beast? So, this time we go to hunt the Tyrannosaurus Rex. There is a lot of danger. Minimum Yan warned the 2, "You must be careful." "Yes, Master." Although Li Feng and Minimum Chang are in the blood coagulation realm like Minimum Yan, their strength is much different. They both have the power of 7 tripods, unlike Minimum Yan who has reached the limit of the blood coagulation realm and has the power of 10 tripods! Exclamation mark. A single arm swing is a huge force of 5,000 pounds. The difference in strength between Minimum Yan and them is as much as 9 times or even 10 times. It's just because Minimum Yan is old now. He is 80 years old, and his blood is not at its peak. After all, 80 years old in such a primitive society is simply a miracle. For so many years, the world has only heard of the ancestor of characters Z living to over 100 years old. Most ordinary humans on Tianyuan Star will die in their 30s or 40s due to various reasons. A few who live to 50 or 60 years old are lucky. Of course, as the blood and ki martial arts spread, the nourishment of the flesh by blood and ki will greatly increase the lifespan of the warrior. In the past 10 years, Minimum Yan rarely took action. Therefore, this time, the hunting of the Tyrannosaurus Rex beast was mainly carried out by Lai Feng and the other two. Minimum Yan went with him just to prevent accidents. After briefly explaining the affairs of the Xia Li tribe, Minimum Yan and the other two followed the middle-aged man of the Li tribe to the Nankang jungle. 10 days later, the four rushed to the Li tribe in the Nankang jungle. The scene in front of them looked a little dilapidated. There were several huge gaps in the 5-meter high wooden wall of the Li tribe. One by one, the giant trees inlaid broke and rolled to the ground. Through the gaps, you can see the collapse of wooden and stone houses, and there are many huge footprints on the ground. Seeing the gap in the wooden wall, the middle-aged man's face changed. That damn Tyrannosaurus Rex beast has come again these days. Minimum Yan frowned and said, "It seems that the Tyrannosaurus Rex will come to attack the tribe every 10 days or half a month. In this case, we will wait in the Li tribe until the Tyrannosaurus Rex beast appears again." The Nankang jungle covers an area of 300 to 400 miles and is the largest primitive jungle in the southern part of Tianyuan continent. The Tyrannosaurus Rex beast lives in this dense jungle. If they want to find the Tyrannosaurus Rex, it is no less than finding a needle in a haystack. So Minimum Yan's best choice is to wait for the Tyrannosaurus Rex to show up in the Li tribe. Of course, Minimum Yan also asked the people in the Li tribe to notify the nearby tribes and let them report immediately if they find any trace of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Prevent the Tyrannosaurus Rex from setting its target on other tribes. Chapter 23 Siege. The ferocious beast Tyrannosaurus Rex is very happy these days because he found a delicious prey. Since the Tyrannosaurus Rex swallowed a fist-sized stone with green light into his stomach by chance a year ago, its fate has changed dramatically. The Tyrannosaurus Rex can feel the blood flowing in his body and can feel his strength increasing. In the past year, the size of the Tyrannosaurus Rex has changed every day, from the initial 10 meters high to 30 meters. In front of it, its former counterparts are like a dwarf, and it can be knocked down by sweeping its tail at will. However, the only bad thing is that the Tyrannosaurus Rex needs to eat a lot of food every day. Originally, there were several dinosaur tribes such as Triceratops, Brachiosaurus, and Ankylosaurus in this jungle. With their huge size, they can provide a lot of flesh and blood, which can meet the needs of the Tyrannosaurus Rex's daily activities. As for the ferocious beasts, there are too few in the Nankang jungle, and it is difficult for the Tyrannosaurus Rex to hunt them. Only occasionally can they have an extra meal. But after a year of hunting, these dinosaur tribes were either eaten up and extinct by it, or moved their territories to places outside the Nankang jungle. Suddenly, the food of the Tyrannosaurus Rex decreased, and the time spent on hunting every day increased greatly. Fortunately, the Tyrannosaurus Rex later discovered the existence of humans. Not only are there many humans, but a tribe has hundreds or even thousands of them, and the meat volume added up is no less than that of other dinosaurs. Moreover, there are some high-energy individuals, warriors, among humans, which can greatly help its growth. The energy contained in devouring a high-energy individual is equivalent to that of dozens or hundreds of ordinary humans. So, the Tyrannosaurus Rex began to attack the human tribe. The Tyrannosaurus Rex, who was lying on the cliff wall basking in the sun, stood up and roared to the sky to dispel his sleepiness. It was time to hunt again. The Tyrannosaurus Rex exhaled 2 streams of hot air from its nostrils and walked straight out of the jungle. The huge body pushed the towering trees along the way, and the giant trees fell to the ground, and the earth roared. The animals within a radius of 5 miles heard the movement and fled in fear. In this way, the Tyrannosaurus Rex forcibly opened up a passage in the jungle. After spending 3 hours hunting several large carnivorous animals that were rare in the jungle, the Tyrannosaurus Rex's stomach was still not full. The Tyrannosaurus Rex, whose intelligence was no different from that of humans, thought for a moment, turned around, and headed towards the human tribe outside the jungle. There was enough food and delicious desserts there. Leave the tribe. Minimum Yan practiced cross-legged, and the martial arts jade in his arms exuded an inexplicable power, which increased his understanding. Although Minimum Yan's blood and energy began to decline due to his age in recent years, his strength slowly decreased, and he was about to decline from the power of the tendings. However, Minimum Yan relied on the ability of the martial arts jade to become more and more proficient in martial arts. So overall, Minimum Yan's strength has not decreased but increased. Minimum Yan slowly exhaled a breath of turbid air to calm the blood and energy in his body. At this time, a figure appeared outside the door, shouting, "Master Wuzhu, the Tyrannosaurus Rex has appeared." It appeared in the medium-sized tribe Z tribe 50 miles away. Minimum Yan's eyes flashed. 50 miles? Some distance. Minimum Yan's figure flashed, and the next moment he appeared more than 20 meters away. His agility did not show that he was an 80-year-old man. Two figures rushed out of the stone houses on both sides, followed Minimum Yan, and went straight to the Z tribe. When Minimum Yan and the other two arrived 50 miles away, the Z tribe had become a ruin. The ground was covered with blood, and only a few people were left wailing in the ruins. Damn it. Minimum Yan's eyes were filled with anger and murderous intent. Looking at the huge footprints extending into the jungle, Minimum Yan and the other two knew that the Tyrannosaurus Rex beast had not gone far. After seeing the tribesmen of the Z tribe fleeing in all directions, they came back to ask for help from the people buried in the ruins. The three figures of Minimum Yan ran wildly again and chased after the Tyrannosaurus Rex. "We must kill this fierce Tyrannosaurus Rex." The three people were furious. If the Tyrannosaurus Rex is allowed to live, the human tribes living around the Nankang jungle will be destroyed one by one. This is something that Minimum Yan and his team will never allow. In their minds, the strong must protect the weak, and they must not let wild beasts and fierce beasts kill their own people. The three of them are all blood coagulation warriors, and their physical fitness is far superior to that of ordinary people. Following the traces left by the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the three of them quickly found the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Looking at the huge body in front of them, Minimum Yan and the other two looked at each other and immediately dispersed around, using the cover of trees and jungles to quickly approach the Tyrannosaurus Rex. However, the Tyrannosaurus Rex is a beast after all, the overlord among dinosaurs, and its sense of smell is so sensitive. Although the experienced Minimum Yan and his team used grass juice with a pungent smell to smear it all over their bodies, they wanted to cover up their own smell. But they were still smelled by the Tyrannosaurus Rex. After the Tyrannosaurus Rex became a fierce beast, it evolved not only in terms of strength, but also in terms of its physical fitness, in terms of reaction speed, sense of smell, and vision. The Tyrannosaurus Rex looked down to the left and saw a tiny figure rushing towards it with a bronze spear in hand. Feeling the sight of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, Li Feng seemed to have returned to the time when he faced the wild wolf when he was a child, and a sense of danger of death came over him. Roar. The Tyrannosaurus Rex roared, and the stench swept around. Knowing that he had been exposed, Li Feng gritted his teeth and continued to rush towards the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Minimum Yan and Minimum Chang were not to be outdone, and they rushed out of the dense jungle and also rushed towards the Tyrannosaurus Rex at the fastest speed. Boom. The Tyrannosaurus Rex raised its thigh, which was like a small mountain, and stepped hard on Li Feng. However, Li Feng dodged it with his size and speed, and operated his skills to move blood and energy, and used his greatest strength to pierce the bronze spear into the Tyrannosaurus Rex's thigh. The power of the 7 tripods exploded in an instant, directly smashing the scales of the Tyrannosaurus Rex into powder, and a large piece of flesh and blood turned into blood foam. A blood hole as big as a basketball suddenly appeared on the thigh of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Roar. The Tyrannosaurus Rex felt pain, and its tail was as fast as lightning, smashing towards Li Feng. The trees and rocks along the way were smashed into pieces by its terrifying power. Although the Tyrannosaurus Rex was huge and not fast, its tail attack speed was far beyond imagination. Retreat. Li Feng kicked the ground and quickly retreated, barely avoiding the tail whip of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Minimum Yan and Minimum Chang, who came to support, had to stop and avoid the tail whip. The strong airflow brought by the tail was like the edge of sawgrass, which made the exposed skin of Minimum Yan and the other two feel slightly stinging. It can be seen how terrifying the power of the Tyrannosaurus Rex's attack was. If he didn't dodge in time, Li Feng would turn into a puddle of meat sauce on the spot. Li Feng had cold sweat on his forehead and his face was solemn. No wonder the tribe leader, who was in the blood coagulation realm, was swallowed by this Tyrannosaurus Rex. The strength of this beast is too amazing. The three looked at each other and launched an attack again. Chapter 24, War. The blood in the bodies of Minimum Yan and the other two rushed through their blood vessels and meridians like a river, and the power contained in the blood burst out wantonly. Holding bronze spears, they used the martial arts they had learned for many years to pierce the body of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. At the same time, they concentrated their minds and focused on guarding against the counterattack of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Compared with the Tyrannosaurus Rex's body of 30 meters, the bodies of Minimum Yan and the other two were very small. This also gave them a great advantage. They could jump and move between the legs, on the tail, and on the back of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and attack continuously. However, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, with its short arms, found it difficult to attack them. It could only try its best to get rid of the three people, and then whip them with its tail and bite them with its teeth. Occasionally, some trees and rocks were thrown at Minimum Yan and the other two to restrict their movements. The jungle was as bright as a natural disaster caused by an earthquake. The towering trees that had grown for decades and hundreds of years were destroyed in the war. Time passed by little. Tyrannosaurus Rex and Minimum Yan were all injured. Their hides were tattered, and their bodies were covered with scars. The blood stained a large area of soil red. Of course, most of the blood belonged to Tyrannosaurus Rex, which looked the most miserable, with blood holes pierced by bronze spears. As for the injuries of Minimum Yan and the other two, they were mostly caused by flying gravel and broken wood. After all, with their bodies, if they were attacked head-on by Tyrannosaurus Rex, they would die without any injuries. Li Feng and Minimum Chang's breathing became rapid. After several hours of fighting, the blood and energy in their bodies were almost consumed. The blood and energy obtained by running the exercises to absorb the vitality of heaven and earth could not keep up with the consumption of the battle. Minimum Yan's condition was not good either. Although his strength was stronger than Li Feng and the other two, and he had more blood and energy in his body, he was also older. This battle was a great burden for Minimum Yan. On the other hand, the Tyrannosaurus Rex looked very miserable and consumed a lot of blood in his body. But in fact, the Tyrannosaurus still has a lot of blood in its body, and its condition is slightly better than the three of them. This is what makes large beasts better than human warriors. Their blood is extremely huge, and they can fight for a long time. Exclamation mark. Minimum Yan glanced at Li Feng and the other two, frowning. This won't work. If we drag it on, we will be the only ones to die. Minimum Yan looked into the eyes of the Tyrannosaurus, and his eyes became sharp. We must find a way to climb onto the beast's head and pierce its head with a bronze spear. Before, Minimum Yan and the other two had tried countless times to climb onto the Tyrannosaurus's head from its back and then kill it. But the Tyrannosaurus was not stupid. Once Minimum Yan and the others showed signs of climbing onto its head, the Tyrannosaurus would roll on the ground or rush into the dense jungle and use dense branches to force Minimum Yan and the others down. So after fighting for so long, Minimum Yan had not been able to make any achievements. But now it was time to fight. Minimum Yan nodded to Li Feng and Minimum Chang and then launched another attack. Minimum Yan's figure wandered among the rubble and broken wood, disappearing from the sight of the Tyrannosaurus Rex from time to time. And every time he appeared, he would leave a bloody hole on the Tyrannosaurus Rex. The bronze spear danced in Minimum Yan's hand with great force. The boulders that were occasionally brought by the Tyrannosaurus Rex were all smashed into powder by the spear, showing his 5,000 Jin strength. Minimum Yan was looking for an opportunity. Li Feng and Minimum Chang also saw Minimum Yan's thoughts, gritted their teeth, and attacked the Tyrannosaurus Rex frantically, fighting at close range and walking under the claws, fangs and tail of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, just to attract the attention of the Tyrannosaurus Rex and create opportunities for Minimum Yan. Roar. After such a long battle, the violent and cruel nature of the Tyrannosaurus Rex had long been aroused, and it hated the 3 ants that hurt it. The Tyrannosaurus Rex roared, wanting to trample the 2 ants under its feet into a meat paste. Finally, Minimum Yan seized the opportunity, quickly climbed up a 50-meter high century-old tree, found the right direction and jumped down, landing accurately on the head of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. The Tyrannosaurus Rex immediately noticed that there was an ant on its head, and immediately hit its head against the cliff rock beside it, trying to scare Minimum Yan away like the previous few times. But Minimum Yan was still determined and vowed to never retreat. He was seen holding a bronze spear and stabbing it hard into the scalp of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Although the spear was blocked by the skull of the Tyrannosaurus Rex and did not cause much damage to its brain. But Minimum Yan also took this opportunity to gain a foothold on the skull of the Tyrannosaurus Rex and was not knocked down by the cliff. However, the feeling of hitting the cliff rock was not pleasant. Minimum Yan felt that his internal organs were dislocated and a mouthful of blood spurted out. Below Minimum Yan, the severe pain in his head once again made the Tyrannosaurus Rex roar loudly, and the huge dragon eyes were full of blood. The Tyrannosaurus Rex wanted to continue to hit the cliff, but Minimum Yan and the other 2 did not give it any chance. 1 from top to bottom, 2 from bottom to top, launched a fierce attack on the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Minimum Yan turned over and came to the front of the Tyrannosaurus Rex and looked into the eyes of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. This world, it belongs to my human race. How can you, a fierce beast, be so violent? Minimum Yan roared, and his blood and energy flowed all over his body, all of which were added to his arms. Then, Minimum Yan stabbed the bronze spear in the left eye of the Tyrannosaurus Rex fiercely. Anghow! The Tyrannosaurus Rex screamed, and blood spurted out of its left eye like a spring. The extreme pain made the Tyrannosaurus Rex tremble throughout its body, and it was impossible to make the next move. But Minimum Yan did not stop his actions, and the bronze spear stabbed the Tyrannosaurus Rex's left eye again and again, creating a big hole in it. Finally, Minimum Yan mobilized all the remaining blood and energy in his body, used the power of 10 tripods, and threw the bronze spear fiercely, piercing the brain of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Boom! Exclamation mark. A loud noise was heard, and dust flew all over the sky. The blood-moving realm Tyrannosaurus Rex beast that had been ravaging the Nankang jungle for several months and destroyed dozens of human tribes was finally dead. Looking at the corpse of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, Minimum Yan and the other 2, who were injured all over, laughed. Haha, we finally killed it. I didn't expect this beast to be so powerful. The 3 of us, the blood coagulation realm warriors, almost died in its mouth. Minimum Yan smiled and shook his head. Large beasts are stronger than human warriors like us and can surpass the 1st heaven. And this beast has reached the 2nd heaven of blood moving realm, so it is naturally stronger than the 3rd heaven of blood coagulation realm, but I don't know how it entered the blood moving realm. Minimum Yan was also full of doubts about this. You have to know that if human warriors want to move from the 1st level of martial arts to the 2nd level of martial arts, most of them need to absorb the vitality of heaven and earth. Only a small number of people can rely on a large amount of flesh and blood to accumulate enough energy to increase their blood and ki to the point where they can move it. This Tyrannosaurus Rex beast obviously doesn't look like it can sense and absorb the vitality of heaven and earth. As for breaking through by eating a large amount of flesh and blood, it is also extremely difficult. With the size of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, it would have to eat at least a few hundred beasts or dinosaurs of similar size to do it. So Minimum Yan really couldn't figure out how it broke through to the blood moving realm. Chapter 25 Death. Could it be that there are higher level divine fruits and herbs in the Nankang jungle? Minimum Yan thought of the high energy plants that can turn ordinary humans and animals into warriors and fierce beasts. However, after so many years of research by Minimum Yan, ordinary spiritual fruits, herbs and flowers are only effective for ordinary people and blood and ki realm warriors at most. For warriors in the blood moving and blood coagulation realms, the heaven and earth vitality contained in spiritual fruits and herbs is not worth mentioning, and is not as much as what they can get from practicing for a few days. Therefore, human high-level warriors rarely eat spiritual fruits and herbs, and more often use them as keys to open the door to martial arts. But now the appearance of the Tyrannosaurus Rex fierce beast made Minimum Yan think of spiritual fruits and herbs. Since it can make fierce beasts break through to the blood-moving realm, it means that the heaven and earth vitality it contains can also help human warriors in the blood-moving and blood coagulation realms break through. Thinking of this, Minimum Yan immediately wanted to find the activity range and nest of the Tyrannosaurus Rex in the jungle to find this higher-level spiritual plant. But now all three of them were seriously injured, and their blood and energy were exhausted. In order to prevent attacks from wild beasts and possible ferocious beasts in the jungle, Minimum Yan had to return to the Li tribe first. He also ordered the people of the Li tribe and the surrounding tribes to go to the jungle to find the Tyrannosaurus Rex's nest. Besides, more people can find the nest faster. After more than half a month of searching, Minimum Yan finally found the Tyrannosaurus Rex's nest in a remote place. Minimum Yan and Li Feng strode into a deep cave in the Nankang jungle. The cave is quite large, otherwise it would be difficult to accommodate a Tyrannosaurus Rex that is 30 meters tall. The high mountain top is 50 to 60 meters high. There are rocks scattered in the cave, and a slanting road spreads into the darkness. Minimum Yan and the other two held torches in their hands and walked inside for more than half an hour. They could feel that they were now hundreds of meters underground. Suddenly, a faint green light appeared in front of them, which cheered up Minimum Yan and the other two. After a moment, an underground world full of stalactites appeared in Minimum Yan's sight. Looking around, stalactites were endlessly covering the end of the site, and a faint green light emanated from them, expelling all the darkness here. The vitality of heaven and earth. Minimum Yan's eyes condensed, and his mind was shaken. Minimum Yan, who carried the martial arts jade disc, had a very high degree of perception of the vitality of heaven and earth. As soon as he stepped into this underground world, Minimum Yan immediately noticed that several stalactites contained rich vitality of heaven and earth and some destructive and powerful energy. At this time, Minimum Yan saw a lot of stalactites covered with tooth marks, and they also emitted a faint vitality of heaven and earth. Minimum Yan understood. It seems that the Tyrannosaurus Rex beast entered the blood-moving realm after swallowing these strange stones. Since the concentration of the vitality of heaven and earth increased, and the extraordinary era came, the high-energy plants and extraordinary biological trees on Tianyuan Star have increased greatly. All kinds of animals and plants can become high-energy plants and extraordinary creatures. Metals, minerals, and rocks buried underground can naturally combine with the vitality of heaven and earth to become spiritual iron, spiritual ore, and spiritual stone. Compared with plants and animals, dead objects such as ores and metals do not have the function of actively breathing, and are more difficult to be infiltrated by the vitality of heaven and earth, and become natural treasures. Especially in a world like Tianyuan Star, where the concentration of extraordinary energy is low and there is almost no magic environment. The difficulty is thousands of times higher. This stalactite can do this, and it has gone through thousands of years, and their own special nature contains special destructive energy. Then, with the opportunity of a surge in the concentration of heaven and earth vitality a few decades ago, it became a primitive stone. Li Feng and Minimum Chang also saw the mystery. These stones will definitely allow me to go one step further and reach the level of my master. The two were ecstatic and immediately rushed over to take down several stalactites containing the vitality of heaven and earth. But Minimum Yan stopped them. Minimum Yan said solemnly, in addition to the vitality of heaven and earth, there are other energies in these stones. Then Minimum Yan asked the two to carefully feel the difference between the vitality of heaven and earth in the cave and outside. As warriors, Minimum Yan and the other two need to move and condense blood and ki, and have a high degree of control over their bodies. So they soon felt the other energies that Minimum Yan mentioned. When they came into contact with this energy, their skin felt a subtle to extreme tingling sensation, as if they were attacked and damaged. But there is also a good side. Their blood is more active than usual, and can be easily moved. This also makes it easier for Li Feng and Minimum Chang to absorb the vitality of heaven and earth, and condense their blood essence faster. Not to mention that the stalactites already contain rich vitality of heaven and earth, which can be provided for them to absorb. After a careful study, Minimum Yan, who understood the characteristics of these yuanxi, looked solemn and said, "This kind of stone is less harmful to warriors, but it is very harmful to ordinary tribesmen. If you want to absorb the heaven and earth energy of these stones, you can. But you must not absorb it in the tribe." Yes. With this, Li Feng and Minimum Chang stayed in the cave to absorb the heaven and earth energy of the yuanxi, preparing to become stronger. Minimum Yan returned to the Light tribe to continue his later life. However, after the battle with the Tyrannosaurus Rex, Minimum Yan had many hidden injuries on his body. In the 125th year of the Extraordinary Era, the 99-year-old Martial Ancestor Minimum Yan's blood and energy were weak to the bottom of the valley, and he would not live long. When the news came out, the whole world was shocked. Warriors from countless tribes within a radius of 3,000 miles went to the Light tribe to pay homage to the Martial Ancestor, the pioneer of the blood and energy martial arts, the common master of the world, and the leader of the human race. Before his death, Minimum Yan passed the treasure martial arts jade bestowed by the gods to Li Feng, the patriarch of the Light tribe, who had reached the peak of the blood coagulation realm like Minimum Chang, with the power of 10 tripods. He also passed on to him the position of the world's common master and the leader of the human race. From then on, the world also regarded the martial arts jade as a symbol of the Tianyuan continent and the world's common master, and the treasure of inheritance. Only each world's common master can hold it! Exclamation mark. When Minimum Yan passed away, Wen Dao cast his eyes on the Tianyuan realm, and witnessed his death with his own eyes. "You have made a great contribution to me, but it's a pity that there is still the same problem. The Tianyuan realm has not yet reincarnated." Wen Dao pondered for a moment, and felt that such a genius should not be allowed to dissipate his soul. It just so happens that the Traverser plan is about to be implemented, so you will be the first person to traverse from the Tianyuan realm to the Zuxing. More than 20 years after Minimum Yan hunted the Tyrannosaurus Rex beast, only a few hours had passed on the Zuxing, and Wen Dao had just selected 1,000 candidates for traversal. There are still more than 4 days before the first batch of travelers are born. Originally, according to Wen Dao's expectation, the travelers of Tianyuan Star would not be born until later. But Minimum Yan is a genius who helped Wen Dao to create a cultivation system, and his contribution is huge. Wen Dao doesn't want him to die like this, so he gave him a chance to travel through time and be reborn. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.